Gather round, freaks. The grimoire looks to be shrinking, as if it has ejected all of its light and goo. It's time to let it have a refractory period and put it back up on the shelf. Wait, what's this? A note has fallen out. It says, "What's your favorite scary movie?"
Mine is just a picture of a hand giving the middle finger, a crudely drawn drawing.
Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, let's stalk the internet radio.
Oh, I know who drew it. Sorry.
Let's stalk the internet radio and stalk the internet campfire, because it's time once again on Thursday night for Hey, did you see this one?
The night is dark, and the air is still. The moon casts an eerie glow over the internet, where a group of curious individuals have gathered to discuss their shared fascination for the macabre. They hold in their hands a book with a foreboding presence, bound in flesh and inked in blood, a tome of horror that only opens its pages when a sacrifice is made. Within its ancient passages lie the secrets of the most infamous murderers and monsters of all time. Join us. But beware, for once this book is open, there's no telling what horrors may be unleashed. This is the Grimoire of Familiar Killers.
I don't get it. They should be here by now.
What are you gonna do?
Hi, hello, and welcome. Welcome
Hi.
and hi. Welcome and hello to Hey, did you see this one? The weekly review reaction roundtable discussion podcast where we just have to ask the question, hey, did you see this one? On this show, it's spooky. We take a film and completely pull it apart, leaving no stone unturned. I, of course, am your number one host, Jason R. Phillips, and I'm joined by my number one also host, Stephen Spooky Waters. Two ones. Not because neither of us is the main host. We are both the ethereal, corporeal representation of hosting. This is episode 177. If you're playing at home, it's season 3, episode 28. It is the grimoire is closing. It's shriveling up. It's falling back up on from the floor back up to the bookshelf. This week we're covering Halloween H20. It's not Halloween now, but it is almost Halloween somewhere in the world. Nope, that's the law is not real. That's right. Maybe. Elbows up, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm joined as always. No, not as always. I'm joined again for the second time this year Ben Mason coming hot off bringing back the BS Bargain Bin podcast. Welcome back to the show, Ben. It's great to see you. It's great to see you. It's great to have you. It's great to see you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very curious to hear thoughts on this film. So.
I have so many papers about it. I have so much literature that I've written.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
There is a lot though.
It might be our shortest movie that we've ever done during the Grimoire at 85 minutes, and if you subtract the credits, it works out to be more like 75 minutes, which is insane. They get right to it. But before we talk about the film itself, I think we have to do a brief synopsis. So who's gonna usher in our brief synopsis this week, Steve?
I don't know.
It's time for a synopsis, bitch.
So rude. Go back to hell, Freddy. You punk.
Go back to hell, Freddy.
All right.
I asked Ben if he could give us a brief synopsis this week since he's familiar with all the things. So why don't you give us a brief synopsis for Halloween H20 20 years later?
Yeah. Well, the Halloween franchise, you both know, is my favorite of all the main horror franchises. But this one, it's pretty short and sweet. The setup for this is it's a 20th anniversary since the killings in Haddonfield, Illinois, and Michael Myers has returned to track down Laurie Strode, now under a pseudonym, and trying to take his final revenge. It's pretty basic. This time, though, instead of Illinois, we're going to have Halloween set in Northern California.
Yeah. It's funny that like every Halloween is supposed to be in the Midwest and half of them look like California. And then this one is filmed or set in California, but looks like it's in the Midwest at a lot of points. You're like, oh, a lot of
yeah, there's definitely palm
here.
trees in Haddonfield if you look close enough in some of the movies.
Yes. All right. I guess we can, that's your full synopsis? Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that we're going to talk about later on, so I'm not going to get into it now.
I mean, that's basically it. Yeah.
But, yeah.
And I guess we can move on right away.
Let's do it.
To what though? I forget. I don't remember.
Oh, sorry. We're moving to our brief histories.
I know. I'm trying to find it. It's
A brief history.
I feel like we're at the point where we should clean that up because I was doing it in the pre-show.
I've got like 5 synopsises in here. We only really need Zardos for most of the year.
That's right. We have a great Zardos one. I think you heard it for the ward, probably. Right. So brief histories. I guess Ben, since you only got to say like 4 sentences, why don't you go first with your brief history? I think you may have the longest one for this also.
Maybe. I saw this in theaters when it came out in 98. I wasn't old enough to go see it. So I forced my mom to take me and my best friend at the time to check it out. She had no idea what the Halloween franchise was, and she was appalled, which is weird because it's really one of the more tame Halloween films.
Yeah.
But with the release of Scream in 96, Scream 2, and I Know What You Did Last Summer in 97, and this in 98, I mean, this has Kevin Williamson written all over it, which is my jam back in the late 90s. I love that. So I went to see this movie in theaters 3 times, making 3 different people take me. And as soon as it hit VHS, bought it, loved it. I mean, you look at the cast; it's phenomenal. I'm hoping
this is like your
about Halloween timeline.
Right? Yeah, I do want to talk about it because I'm a little bit confused in this one. But I was going to say this is like your Star Wars Episode 1. You did what I did for that movie. A little more age appropriate for me. Yeah, that's cool because like,
easier for you for sure.
I do know like a lot of people who love Halloween, and this one often falls high on their list of Halloween movies in terms of like an overall franchise, which I guess, are you done with your brief history? Would you like me to go into mine?
Yeah, definitely go for it. I mean, there's a lot more to talk about, which I will tackle. Don't worry.
All right. So one of my longest and oldest and bestest friends. His older sister was very into this franchise, and when this movie was announced, she was like stoked, like super excited. So it was all the buzz, and to me, it felt like the biggest movie to ever be announced, just based on the reactions of her and her friends, who were like, they were like teenagers, and I'm like a little kid being like, this must be like the greatest movie ever made, maybe. But just the idea of it frightened me and terrified me to the point that I didn't watch it for several more years. I didn't kind of like break my my fear of horror movies until middle school, and I was still in primary school when this movie came out. So it was this mysterious, horrifying thing, and you know, when it did come out on VHS, they would put it on, and I would be so terrified that I'd be like, I'm gonna go play F-Zero in the basement while you guys watch this freaky movie in the middle of the day with all the lights on upstairs. So for me, it was just this sort of like untouchable thing for a long time. And to be honest, I think I've only seen it once, other than when I rewatched it today. And we'll get into how I feel about it as we go through the podcast. But it just tonally, it's like so different than every other one as well. Even the remakes that come after it, everything before it, it just kind of has its own identity, very much steeped in the same thing that we were talking about last week with New Nightmare. It just like, it feels like that pocket of the 90s that had this sort of like this gloss to it, this like everything is tightened and it feels nice and crunchy, and you're like, this is the 90s that I like, and I'm not mad at any of it. and I wish I could have remakes or versions of movies for all of these franchises with that sort of that 90s gleam on it that I appreciate so much. So we're lucky with this series and New Nightmare, but Chucky, unfortunately, I mean, Chucky sort of with Bride kind of has the treatment, but Jason never really got one. Nothing out of the Jason franchise feels like something like this, or Bride of Chucky, or New Nightmare. So it's nice to see that this franchise at least has one, you know, in the 55 Halloween movies that exist or whatever.
You could make the argument of Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a little bit later.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. You're on the right track there. I don't know if I would count it, but I, you know, I wouldn't discount it. That's for sure.
It's got that same gloss, definitely.
Yeah, it has the 90s vibe, because I mean, that's what, 2001 or 2002.
Yeah.
I think?
Yeah.
So it's
2001, I think.
The 2000s hasn't shaken off that 90s paint job yet. You know, it hasn't forged its own identity yet.
Yeah, in retrospect, that you see that at the beginning of every decade, where the previous decade is still vomiting all over the first couple of years. Like, look at the 70s into the 80s. We've covered some early movies, and it's like, this is a 70s movie, buddy.
Well, I mean, it's like it's all retrospective, right? Like, it's not like they know. Like, now it's a new decade, guys. We got to come up with something fresh, immediate. We cannot be like the last decade. All right.
Right. So yeah, so it's well documented on this show that I was too afraid to watch any of the stuff, but this one's
really?
interesting.
Are you shitting me? Wait, next thing you're gonna tell me is that RoboCop fucked you up for your whole life, or whatever.
It messed me up for my whole life. In fact, I watched RoboCop like 2 weeks ago, and it rechanged my life, realizing it's a masterpiece, and there's nothing really to be afraid of.
Amazing.
It's just gory, but it's not even. Anyway, I was a little pissed baby.
Red Foreman.
But this one, so there was this phenomenon happening in the late 90s, around when I was like, I would have been 14, I would have been 13, 14. And all of the kids in junior high would go to the kids' house for parties, like basically house parties, where there was no parents home. And there was always a little den where there was a TV and whatever the new horror movie was on. And I shit you not, all of the movies that Ben talked about at the beginning, Scream 1 and 2, I Know You Did Last Summer, and this, were movies that I was actively ducking so I wouldn't accidentally see some gore. But I built these movies up in my head in this really strange way to be way scarier than they are. And let me tell you, watching this movie today was and yesterday was cathartic, realizing that they're not scary. They almost borderline camp when you watch them 30 years later, right? And this one especially is that it's got that thing where every actor is recognizable. Where when we go back and watch those movies from the 80s, I don't really know any of those actors unless there's that one person that ended up having like a long career. But this one, basically everybody became somebody through the 2000s. And I just remember when this movie came out, walking into somebody's house, walking down there, one of those classic Halifax hallways, split house, walking down and looking into the room.
Classic Halifax hallway. That's what they used to call me in high school. Halifax
Heyo.
hallway. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, I guess that's like a nickname for a whore.
Yeah, you don't know what that means. You don't know what you're saying right now. Ben knows.
Yeah, I have no clue whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I do remember when this movie came out, going to a house party with my best pal Jake, who's been on the show, and walking over and both of us looking into the room and being like, okay, well, we have to go now. And then I didn't get to split a beer with 9 people. So that's my brief history with this film. But I enjoyed it. It's good. It's good. It's good. So production talk, I suppose. Ben's face. What's your face on your face doing?
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of
Sound. Speed. Action!
That's right. It's time for a production talk, formerly director talk. We're going to basically go through more of the production side of things. First and foremost, I will say that the budget for this movie was a mere $17 million, made $75 million at the box office. So, sequel. And it looks like a $17 million movie. There isn't a lot of wasted motion where as far as where the money went, but there's some good special effects and there's a pretty notable cast. But they were probably cheap at the time. So outside of that, let's talk cinematography, the music. Ben, you might have some insight onto production notes about this film. So feel free to let us know about any of that stuff. It was, of course, directed by
Sure. I mean,
Steve Miner.
What else has Steve Miner done?
Well,
Does anybody know?
Mostly TV, from what I can tell. I'm not really familiar with much of his filmography, but he worked all through the 70s, 80s, 90s up until 2016. But I don't know nothing about him. I don't know anything about him. He directed Lake Placid.
Well, his first, his first 2 big movies was a producer on Friday the 13th Part 2 and directing Friday the 13th Part 3.
Yes.
So this was a no-brainer for him. I don't know if anybody looked into what John Carpenter had to do with this movie.
No.
The answer is
nothing. Yeah, he didn't even,
because he was supposed to direct.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he was supposed to direct it, but he and Mustafa Akkad, the producer for the majority of the franchise, still were at odds with each other because Carpenter felt he was still owed money for the first movie. So when they approached him to direct, he said he wanted $10 million and a 3-picture deal with Dimension, and was shut down immediately by Bob Weinstein. So he just walked away from it altogether. The writing is interesting because, like I said, this movie has Kevin Williamson all over it, but you never see him credited for any of it. He did the original screenplay for it. And you can tell, like I said, Scream 2, and I know he did last summer, all Williamson's works. And it's got Michelle Williams, who was in Dawson's Creek, which he also created. But then they brought in people to rewrite the script based off of his original screenplay, and then brought him back to do some on-set rewrites. But he's not credited for any of that, because to get Writers Guild of America credit on a film, you have to write at least 33% of the shooting script. So he just got completely screwed over on that. Even Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't going to come back unless there was a definitive death to Michael Myers in the movie. And they knew the only reason that they could get her is if they agreed to it. So they ended up having 2 endings written to the script and only presented one to her and filmed that one, and they sent the other ending, which leads us into Resurrection, to
I
the
think Michael
production
will be
company.
okay after what happens to him at the end of the movie. I think he's good.
Yeah, right. The
I don't
whole
even
thing is
know.
just—it's such a weird, messed up story. I'm surprised it even exists today.
Yeah. Yeah, that all sounds very skeezy and bad. I don't like it. Makes me feel icky. I don't even know.
The
I can't.
Weinsteins? No way.
You telling me the Weinsteins are bad guys? You can't. Yeah, there's no way.
Very,
but
very humble, honest people.
yeah, they've never done anything terrible, right? I the entire time watching this movie was like,
That's our show for this week. Sorry, go ahead.
Was just thinking like this. A lot of this even just feels lifted from Scream. Like a ton of stuff just feels like, oh, that's a Scream bit. That's a Scream bit. That's also a Scream bit. And we'll talk about it when we get into the body of the episode. But like to the point that it was almost like turning me off a bit. I was like, come on, Scream isn't that old compared to this movie that people aren't going to immediately be like, that's like the same exact thing they did. They didn't even try to tweak it. But whatever.
They even lifted music from Scream.
Well, I mean, Scream soundtrack, if you listen to it.
Yeah, they had Marco Beltrami do a lot of music.
Yeah, but like Scream soundtrack, if you listen to it, it's literally lifted from like every slasher franchise. It's beautiful. Like you listen to it, and you're like, oh, there's Jason, there's Michael Myers, there's Freddy, there's little Chucky in there. Like each track individually has bits and pieces of all of these different slasher franchises, which I think is sort of like an amazing way to compile a soundtrack. But I think it's evolved past that since. But if you look at the very first movie and you just listen to the soundtrack, it's pretty amazing. You're like,
Definitely.
wow, it's crazy Friday the 13th riff in the middle of this random other music.
I did love the score for this one because they took the classic theme, but they added strings and they made it crescendo at the right times. It was almost like the James Bond movies where, especially Dr. No, where you hear the James Bond theme for the second time in that movie while he's just walking through an airport, not doing nothing. And this movie has that same sort of, they just play a crazy version of the Halloween theme while somebody's driving, while Michael Myers is driving in the car. You know what I mean? Which is a reference to Psycho, apparently. It's the car from Psycho, I read somewhere.
There's a couple of visual references to Psycho in this movie as well.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah. The music, though, yeah, I was messaging Jason today while I was watching it. I'm like, oh, the music is like doing that 90s thing of like really kind of sticking it to you as you're watching, where it's like just the music is like beautiful and it's like panning across this nice looking city or town, and the October 31st comes up and then the music just turns evil, and I'm like, now this is cinema, folks. This is cinema. I'm like looking around at nobody in my living room. Oh man, I feel right at home here in whatever fuck in town this is, not Hattonville or whatever.
Haddonfield. Haddonfield. I have a question about the timeline, because obviously I haven't seen Resurrection or the 2 remakes or the 2 reboot remakes, but I've seen
all of them, and I have questions about the fucking timeline.
Is this movie a sequel to the last one, or is this like the 2 new ones that go and retcon out a bunch of movies? Because
this is a direct sequel to Halloween 2.
That's what I thought.
So
they're just making sequels to Halloween 2 now, because that's what the new ones are too, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much.
This was like these 2 movies are their first crack at making Halloween and Halloween Kills.
But Williamson's original script actually, like, they explained the entire series up until this point and how this movie's connected to it, and it was absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, it would have to be, right? There's cults and cloning and shit in the other movie. And I'm like, I'm fine with that. I like that stuff. I think that one of the things that saddens me beyond this movie is that for some reason it became the franchise where they're not allowed to do silly things. Like everything has to be extremely grounded. The only thing that can be slightly otherworldly is the fact that he seemingly can't feel pain and is impossible to kill. Everything else is like, there's no fun. There's no fun to be had. It's always like gritty and grimy and gross and mean feeling. I do not like the Rob Zombie versions. I don't
No, me neither.
hate the newer ones. I kind of like them a little bit, but like they still like they don't allow for a lot of fun. It does get kind of fun when an entire town is like chanting like "Evil dies tonight" or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of on board.
Oh
for
my
this
god,
version.
that was
Listen, I agree that it's bad, but I
that's
fucking
so
like
bad.
it.
It's so bad.
I like it though. I like it because it's so bad.
The DGG trilogy is rough, but
Yeah,
like this one, I'm glad they didn't try to explain the Cult of Thorn trilogy of movies
to Josh Hartnett in film. Like some guy just shows up, it's Loomis's nephew.
Yeah.
It just starts explaining to LL Cool J like the story so far.
you don't understand the Cult of Thorn. He looks exactly like Loomis, but it's not Loomis. My uncle Loomis told me all about it.
And LL Cool Ronnie is just like, I'm just trying to write a sexy book here.
You're saying the movie's kind of a little too grounded, right? And that it's gross,
it's not necessarily
it's mean.
It just it's mean spirited is how it always feels. And like they always kind of linger a little bit too long on him murdering people, and there's never any kind of like fun or whimsy to his kills in the way that, you know, Freddy or Chucky or Jason have. It's always just sort of like, what's the most brutal way we can kill somebody?
Yeah.
And you know, I think that has its place. But for me, the reason that these movies are escapist for me is because I'm having fun with them and I'm not scared. And the thing about these movies is they're not scary to me, but they're also not fun. So when I'm watching it, I'm like, what am I getting? Am I supposed to be intrigued by the story? Because the story isn't really all that intriguing either. So for me, for me, I would say that like out of the 4 that we cover in the Grimoire, the Halloween movies are always sort of the ones that I'm like, I'm not that into. I don't dislike them, and I usually I do go out of my way to watch them. You know, like I'm not like, oh, here we go, another Halloween. Like I've always kind of been into the franchise in the sense that when a new one comes out, I do want to see it. But I've always kind of had the same issue with it because the first one that I saw in theater was the first Rob Zombie movie, and that one was so dirty and grimy and mean spirited, and just felt like, who pulled this out of their butt? And then they made the second one, and I saw that. I'm like, this one got shoved back in a butt and then pulled out of another butt. Like, this is crazy.
I will say, watching all of these films has caused me to really appreciate the first one, because I notoriously, infamously, if you will, don't like that movie very much. I thought it was boring, but I want to go back to I think the point of Michael Myers is the simplicity of a slasher film, and then there's 6 movies after, and Halloween 2 still has a bit of the simplicity, but there's a whole series. There's like 5 movies that are explaining this weird cult that is never really pull the trigger fully on. And I kind of miss just like, I really like Halloween 2, dude. I really like him stalking people in a hospital. That's my favorite Halloween movie, I think, by far. And I kind of miss that. And this has shades of that. But then they're like, it's in a prep school now. I want to see him go from house to house still and go into houses, you know. But it's an interesting backdrop, I think. And the cinematography in this film is pretty good. It's well shot, I would say. But I'm no expert.
No, I'd agree with you on that one. I think the movie looks really good. I think the masks they use for Michael are absolutely atrocious.
Yeah,
because they went to Spirit Halloween and just bought a mask.
Yeah, they didn't make.
No, there's 4 different masks used, and
in this movie
there's 4 in this movie, and I'm assuming we'll get to the CG one at some point.
Oh, I didn't even notice. Maybe I looked away. Oh, is it the end?
Oh, it's terrible. No, it's when he confronts the Charlie character in the kitchen.
What?
Yeah, there was a bunch of masks. They used the original K&B effects mask for some of the further away shots, and they used a redone Stan Winston mask for the close-ups. And they used the original K&B mask because the Winston mask wasn't done yet for the kitchen shot, and they had already struck the set.
So they CG on top of the mask. That's
They
why I was
CG'd
like,
the
why does
wings
that
and
look
mask
so
on
weird? Okay, I was
because it looks awful.
Yeah, I know, but I couldn't tell that it was CG. But like, I was like, that looks like shit. I'm like who? It looks like somebody put eyeliner around it, like like with hand drawn.
Yeah.
We'll get to it when we talk about it, but because that scene in general, that's when I started to get pissed off at the movie. I was like, fuck this. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things about this franchise is it's like they always had mask problems since like the very first one. It's just like, we can't figure this fucking mask out. And it's like, why not just make a mold and just keep the mold in like a warehouse or something? It's like they try to make a new one every time, or they like buy one from a Halloween store and paint it. And it's like, yeah, that's what you did in the first one because you didn't have a budget. Make one, like archive it, realize that this is a franchise and you're going to continue doing it going forward. But it's like every single time they throw it out, they're like, yeah, we're never coming back here again, right? This one's not going to make money. makes $1 billion. They're like, oh, I guess we have to do another one. Did we save that mold? No. We threw it in the dumpster.
Just get a new William Shatner mask. You're like, they haven't made a William Shatner mask since 1974.
It's like a young special effects artist being like, who the fuck is William Shatner?
Yeah. He's only
Captain
aged
Kirk,
20 years
Chris
later.
Pine mask?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not quite yet, but basically.
It'd be hilarious. Jason, you were saying that you don't like the first movie because you find it boring, but you like the second one.
Yeah.
Have you done a double feature of the two?
No, but I think that would be beneficial because it is one movie. It's one 3.5 hour.
You also have to remember that Jason watched that one for the first time after watching the other three for the first time, which are arguably more exciting because they are movies that are aping off of the success of the first one, right? So it's like, this is the template, and these other franchises are using that as a template and improving. So Jason watched the one that came first. For the rest of us, it's like we've seen it a million times. We recognize it as a classic. Jason is experiencing it for the first time as an adult who's seen countless other movies in the past. So it's like, we understand why you don't like it. But I think Ben is right. If you watch it back to back with the second one as like sort of one long movie, it is pretty cool. Like it's like it makes you appreciate them a little bit more for sure.
And just before we like move on, I have a question. Why his eye no out? Why his two eyes exist? Why he no have out eye on one side? He have two eyes, fine eyes.
Listen, you don't need to remove words. It's making it confusing.
I'm sorry. Why?
Next time, just remove all the eyes from the sentence.
Right. I didn't really get. I immediately noticed that one of his eyes is fine, and he gets stabbed in the eye with a coat hanger. Very obviously.
But are his eyes missing in any of the other movies?
I thought that he had one of his eyes.
Yeah, at the end of the second one.
One of his eyes is all fucked up.
They both get shot out at the end of the second movie. He gets shot in both eyes. And the thing is,
also his eyes are extremely beautiful and blue. At the beginning of the movie, you hear Loomis being like, "You're looking into those."
Does it remind you of anybody?
They're black eyes. They're the devil's eyes. I also have blue eyes. But then it's like he has like nice eyes. Like in this movie, he has nice eyes. They should have gave him like black contacts or something, right, to make him look evil. But I guess at the end of the movie, he's supposed to be staring into his eyes and seeing some sort of glimpse of humanity or something. But
well, that's why the first one worked so well, I think, because you couldn't see his eyes, and here they're like,
it's so weird.
Take over for the mask.
Yeah, and it's like, don't even try and hide it in shadow like at all. It's just like,
no,
especially in the kitchen sequence. That's where you first kind of notice, like, damn, Michael Myers has beautiful eyes. Like, what the fuck
is there a hot guy under that mask? What's going on?
Yeah, is he sexy under there?
Man, well, there's an observation for you.
Yeah, I assume
the answer is yes.
Stinks, right? But I mean, if he knows how to drive, he probably knows how to shower. So maybe he showers before he goes to his he likes to feel clean. He dry cleans his mechanic's outfit, puts on some clean undies, eats a dog, and then goes out and kills people.
It's lunchtime.
Yeah. That's one thing that I always forget about until you watch the first one again. And you're like, They're like, oh, there's a dead dog, and then Loomis is like, he must have got hungry. It's like, what? Does Michael Myers canonically eat dogs? And then like in the newer movies, he eats a dog again. You're like, he just eats dogs, I guess. He can't go to the store and steal. I mean, I don't know. Michael Myers doesn't make any sense, right? Because he has to exist like a normal person, whereas like Jason and Freddy and Chucky, like Chucky doesn't need to eat. Freddy exists in your dreams. He can just like manifest any food he wants. And then Jason Voorhees is a zombie. He doesn't need to eat. But yeah, like imagining like Michael Myers pulling his mask up to like here and like or like eating a cat or a dog or something.
Well, you
So
also said you
weird.
can't go to the store, which I find absolutely hilarious and accurate. But it also means he doesn't go to the gas station. So how many cars does he steal to get from Illinois to Northern California?
Yeah, he
He
runs out of
just
gas.
keeps almost killing people.
It also like
Yeah.
I find it so hilarious every time you see him driving. I don't know why. It's just like the idea of this killing machine Terminator guy like getting into a car and being like and like he's like getting annoyed. He's like stuck in traffic, like like on the highway, like shit.
But the Halloween music
Gridlock.
is just playing the whole time. He's like ding
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 ding.
ding.
ding, ding.
It's like an 8-track tape. He has to pull it out and flip it over, and it's like the B-side is the Halloween 2 soundtrack.
Can you imagine it cuts to the theme playing? He's just sitting back with his head back in the car, arm on the wheel,
Yeah.
waiting, just waiting.
He's rubbernecking in traffic, like an accident, and causes a bunch of traffic behind him. Oh,
Flipping off
Myers.
other drivers.
Because if he's driving that far, he's running into
Mm-hmm.
traffic at some point. There's also like in one of the movies, I forget which one it is, but he's in a car again, and you see the shot is like him. He's driving, he's doing a left-hand turn, and you see him check. You see him check
His blind spot. Yeah.
like he's not only does he drive, but he's a responsible driver too. He's a safe driver. Listen, he's got to get to the scene of the crime to kill people. He can't get in an accident on the way there.
He only wants to kill his family members and anybody that gets in his way of killing his family members. He doesn't want to be an irresponsible driver. And he, if he has to kill you to take your car, he will. But if he can just get those keys and get out of there, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Do we want to get into the body of the episode?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's freaking do it.
Fucking do it, buddy.
The body of the episode.
Was that too loud for you, Jason?
No, I was just adjusting my headset. Fuck no. This movie, so it is. Does it start at Halloween or the day before Halloween? This was confusing to me.
29th.
Right. Okay. So it opens up with that. We get the sequence, basically the Ghostbusters of it all. This one had a little bit more of a Ghostbusters-y opening because it did the cold open with the pre-kill. The music during the sequence was a little bit
You're like literally comparing this to Ghostbusters. Okay.
A little bit like
The
a lot of
music
these horror
is
movies do
Mr.
it too.
Sandman. It's like Mr. Sandman, which is a weird choice because that's how the movie opens is Mr. Sandman is playing, and then it's like a crazy violent stab with a horrifying butcher knife into a pumpkin to carve it. The choice is so strange because it then pans to like an older looking car, and then a person gets out in an older looking nurse's uniform. She puts a cigarette in her mouth immediately, and then it's like 1998. I'm like, what the fuck? Like the choice of music made me be like, oh, is this going to be like the night that he killed his sister? Maybe that was like by design to be like, oh, they're going to think it's old timey, but it's actually this year, the year you're seeing the movie. Ooh. The scariest thing is her choice of music.
I did hope that while he was doing a killing spree later in the film, the song was going to play. It's an excellent choice of music to open up to. I meant more the score while Joseph Gordon-Levitt is doing stuff. But yeah, you're right. I forgot about that completely there for a second. And we're also introduced to the woman. She gets to her house. It appears to be broken into. And then we're introduced to Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is wearing a Friday the 13th style hockey mask, which I thought was great. And she basically it's like, I'm too scared to go in there, children. Can you go and investigate?
No, she doesn't want them to go in there. She does the opposite of what you're saying. She's like, do not go in there. It could be Michael Myers. She doesn't say that, but like the implication is there. She's nervous. She wants to wait for the police. But Jorson Gorfin Borfin, I always had to fuck his name up. He is a little shit, and he's like, I have a hockey stick and I love beating people with it, I guess. Like, he's too brave. But yeah, he goes into detective mode, and you kind of like, he's gonna die. I know he's gonna die.
Yeah.
But why is he in this movie? Yeah. I guess just to die. But Jason today pointed out, like, it's kind of like Drew Barrymore in Scream, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point. I never really thought about that, because I the whole time was like, he's probably still trapped in TV prison or whatever, right? He can't get out. He can't get into the movies. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure he was just Third Rock from the Sun. And then maybe did the movie The Juror with Alec Baldwin and Demi Moore before this, but
but he gets the prestigious title credit at the end of the opening credits, like, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which is like usually reserved for like a Donald Pleasance or like a Samuel Jackson or something, you know. But it's like Levitt's.
I do love that when his name comes up in the credits, he's already dead.
Yeah, that was like, for a moment I was like, does that mean he's not dead? Like, is he gonna come back? Is he gonna be Michael Myers? Like, it's gonna be a Scream situation where there's multi Michael Myerses. That didn't happen.
Did anybody find it weird that the nurse never brought up Michael Myers at all, considering she's the nurse from the first movie?
Yeah, and she had
Loomis and his.
She had a room full of like newspaper clippings and like drawings.
Yeah,
of stuff.
Loomis in his last days, as Loomis is getting more and more senile and crazy, you know, he's just like, he's going to come back. He's gonna come back. He's got the eyes of a devil. He's a demon. And she's like, yeah, but he's been gone for 18 years. What are you talking about? He's like, evil never dies. But no,
can I ask you a question about that?
He's trying to open a yogurt, and he's like, "Can you open this yogurt for me?"
Yogurt never dies.
I seem to have eaten this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's 20 years later. Where's he been?
He's just been chilling. No, he was trapped in the cloning facility or whatever at the end of the last one. He killed Loomis, and he's like, "Well, now what do I do?"
Well, if this is a direct sequel to 2. He got his eyes shot out and then was set on fire. And then 20 years later, he's still in Illinois.
Oh yeah,
you know what?
I'm
going to give it another go.
I forgot the cult movie didn't happen in this timeline. He was getting he had to go to another country to get eyeball surgery. He murdered a bunch of surgeons until one of them did it for him finally.
He went to Turkey to get his eyes back in.
That's actually his real hair popping out of the top of the Michael Myers. That's why at the end when he goes like, he's like, "Is my hair okay? I spent $10,000 on this."
See Michael Myers going through customs.
Ding 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 ding.
Sir, you're gonna need to take the mask off.
Just stabs him. Jimmy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, he's looking through the house. Some of it's smashed up, some of it isn't. He decides to just also smash some stuff because he's a fucking delinquent. Eats a cookie, steals some beer.
He doesn't smash things up on purpose. He steals beer, he eats a cookie, and then he gets scared by an ironing board that falls out of and then he swings, and then that's why he's like, he also really fucked up your kitchen because he did that. I thought he was gonna be like, I think he also stole beer. I swear, it looked like you should have more beer.
I saw somebody in there, a bunch of beer bottles on the ground, and I cleaned them up for you, so don't worry about it.
I did laugh when he was walking away, and you just hear like the clink, clink, clink in his pockets. I was like, that's pretty funny. I had my headphones on; it was pretty subtle, and I was like, that's a good touch.
You guys already pointed out that there were pictures of Loomis. They show a file folder. Laurie Strode's file is gone, so he's also like picking up files, I guess, to read where she is now, because this is Haddonfield here.
He's doing research. He does his own research.
It's not even in Haddonfield.
This isn't Haddonfield.
No, it's just some other place in Illinois.
This is the reason it takes place 20 years later is because this is how long it took him to figure out where she moved to. He can't do it by regular means.
He's just been walking this whole time for 20 years, eating dogs and cats on the way.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs.
That's what Donald Trump was talking about.
He was talking about Michael Myers in 1998.
Killing spree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Myers made the poor choice of exploring the East Coast first, then heading west.
You know, I've been talking a lot about Hannibal Lecter, but I want to talk about somebody else right now. My good friend, Michael Myers. He's a good man, handsome man. Some say a little too pale, but I don't know. What do you think?
We do get a good shot of Michael Myers in the background at one point here too. So he's definitely still there. Yeah. And we get the musical sting, and I just wrote the nature of this feels like the cold open for a Ghostbusters. I wrote that down. But it is revealed that she was Loomis's nurse.
Jason, when you watch any TV show with a cold open, do you go, "This is exactly like Ghostbusters"?
I do for everything.
I mean, it's
every episode of Severance that I watched in season 2. I was like, "This is Ghostbusters."
Yeah, I can't believe they did a Ghostbusters at the beginning of this.
Ben Stiller must love Ghostbusters. She finds oh man, it's off screen, but his death is a skate through his head with a pretty good effect.
And he's in like a rocking chair or whatever. Like,
yeah.
And the other guy just has a knife in his back, right?
He's just stabbed,
So that's when I'm like, oh, this is going to be more like Jason. This is going to be more fun. There's going to be more creative fun to be had. And there's a little bit, but it's not nearly as much as something like a Freddy or a Jason, where like the last Jason we did, every time you see him, he has a new tool, a new tool of destruction. Where you're like, where is he getting all this? Is there a shed somewhere that he keeps going back to?
That's one of my criticisms of this movie, actually, because this movie was a prime opportunity to do the algorithm, the kills per minute thing that the Friday the 13th 7 does, where if somebody's not being killed, it's a countdown timer to a random person being killed. But there's a whole section of plot in this that really took me out of it. I'm like, this is the 7th one. This is going to be like LL Cool J gets killed, and then Michelle Williams gets killed, and then
to be completely honest, I would have preferred way more LL Cool J and a lot less of Jamie Lee Curtis and her fucking guidance counselor boyfriend making out. I was just like, I don't give a shit about this plotline at all. I am way more invested in LL Cool J reading his erotic novel to his girlfriend over the phone. Like, I want to hear more about this book.
Yeah, we'll get to that soon enough. Michael Myers gets
weird things that have happened already for me to take anything in this movie seriously, and that's why I think I like it so much, because you can just put it on and just enjoy it and not have to worry about it finishing off a story or anything. Like, where has Michael been for the last 20 years? Also, when the nurse gets home, it's like late afternoon, very, very early evening. They call the police. The police are going to be there in 15 minutes. Cut to it being pitch black outside, and the police still don't show up for maybe another 10. Time doesn't really exist in this movie.
Sun sets fast, man. Sun sets fast. That sun was already on the horizon. It was going down quick. But she also does say at one point, I guess the police aren't coming. So I guess they probably waited the allotted amount of time. And
that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So it's like, I can forgive it, because I don't know if you've ever had to call the police for anything before, but it is not as quick as a response as you would think it would be. Unless you're like, he's got a gun, they're not going to show up for a while.
I'm on fire.
Yeah.
Well, you've called the wrong people for that, sir or madam. Michael Myers.
I once called the police and they said, yeah, we're not going to send anybody. And I was like, okay, bye.
You think somebody like the police force in this small Illinois town would be like, something to do at least. Let's go.
Oh God, yes. Yeah. Finally a B&E. Sick. I've never had one of those before.
They're all fighting over taking the call.
That's literally Haddonfield. That's the vibe you get when you watch those idiot sheriffs like shooting each other by accident in that one movie where the town revolts. Michael Myers gets a butcher knife. The stuff you talked about where they called the police, they kind of roll up at that moment, and they think it's a prank, while literally a woman is getting her throat slit in one of the most graphic throat slitting moments I think I've ever seen in a film. I know you guys have probably seen much worse than this, but I was shocked. I was like, no wonder I was afraid of this, because this is when I see something that shocks me now, it would have destroyed me as a 14-year-old. It would have wrecked my life, because I had I think it was an empathy thing. Like, I had too much empathy as a kid. So anything messed me up. Seeing people throw up in movies, like even like fist fighting and stuff, like it just affected me in this really weird way. Now I'm a husk. Nothing really affects me. I thought that Sling Blade was going to be a gore fest, and then I was like, oh, this is touching my heart. But my heart is so black and cold that I was like, when is he going to kill somebody? Anyway.
Did you think Sling Blade was a horror movie?
No, I was saying to Ben in the pre-show that I thought it was not a horror movie, but I thought it was about a deranged killer who gets progressively more violent.
Oh,
But
so
in
the
indie
beginning of this
film,
movie,
so-
when she's being murdered and the police are, doing that annoying thing where they're right there, but they can't hear her, and then they go inside just as the window smashes.
Yeah.
This is where I'm like, oh, this is Scream. They're doing the same thing
Yeah.
that Scream does. I think to a lesser degree as well. In Scream, it's like you can actually believe that the parents aren't able to hear her and stuff, whereas this, they did the same sort of gag, except it was completely unbelievable. I mean, they have the kids screaming on the street because it's Halloween, so you're like, oh, the kids screaming are the reason they can't hear it. But I don't buy it, like if she smashes the fucking window open with a golf club and like a couple of kids screaming are gonna stop the police in their tracks.
I think
Yes,
the golf
that's what
club means kick the door down, right? Like it's pretty. I think seeing a golf club smash through the window.
They
means
don't
we have to-
see it. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
dumb part. That's the annoying
Yeah.
part is she smashes the window and they're like on their way into the house and they don't hear it because there's kids screaming in the fucking street, but it's just in the background as well. So like for me, I'm watching it and I'm like, oh man, this reminds me of Scream, except in Scream, Drew Barrymore is like sprinting as fast as she can around the outside of her massive fucking property while her parents are taking the scenic route on their huge, like as far as the eye can see driveway up to their house, and she's screaming and screaming, but they're just in the car with the radio on so they can't hear her, and it's dark so they can't see her. It all makes sense, but in this, to me, it doesn't make sense. It's hard for me to suspend my disbelief to the degree that it's asking me to, but it wasn't a deal breaker or anything. I was just kind of like, that's dumb. They would have heard that. Like, if I'm ever like, that's dumb, they would have heard that in a movie. They probably should have tried something else. But, good throat slit. She died real quick. I don't know if that's how that works. Do you die that fast from getting your throat slit? I feel like you'd be going through a lot for a little bit, but.
Yeah, it was a quick slice and then just lay down on the floor.
Yeah, a lot of movies treat it like getting your throat slit is like getting shot in the head. You're just instantly dead. Like, oh, okay.
I will say that Michael Myers, keeping up his reputation as a good driver. I think it's a Dodge Charger that he rolls away with.
No clue.
Yeah, I noticed that too. He's riding in style.
Yeah, it's a nice car, and there's no like real title drop in this, but
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
up sort of the next day. They don't say Halloween 20 years later, but he does mention, he just says Halloween, but also they basically give you that plot drop of it's been 20 years. What's going on? Could it be him? I don't think it's him. I don't think he ever existed for real, if you ask me. So I liked that. I think that was close enough to a title drop for its intended purpose. And they investigate the murder of the woman. This is sort of when it's revealed that this was Dr. Loomis's nurse, and he lived there with the nurse. And they talk about who he is a little bit. The detective speculates that maybe Michael Myers.
In a regular movie where it has more than 85 minutes of movie time, these two detectives would have their own plot, and we would follow them as well as the characters in the movie. But this isn't a regular movie. This is a movie where it's like we get a couple of scenes of two middle-aged people making out while one of them is secretly just pounding alcohol, and a bunch
in fact, this movie's so short that when the final girl and boy are just put in a car and leave the movie, and then there's just a showdown for 25 minutes between the two, which I did enjoy, and we'll talk about it when we get there. But this movie could have used being 10 minutes longer to just like flesh out some stuff. But I don't think that's
Well,
the point. I don't think that's necessarily the point.
I'm glad you brought up the cop subplot because that was actually part of the original script,
I figured,
and they only left in that scene, and then you never really see them again.
I think it is kind of tough because you look at the movie and the structure of it, and it's like, well, what would they be doing? Would they be just investigating his trail until he gets there, and then when he is there, are they just also going to be cannon fodder? I don't know, but like, it did feel like there was a significant chunk of stuff in this movie that was either just they didn't have time or money to finish it. They cut it at the beginning because they're like, let's just make it a tight 85 minutes. Let's make it the length of The Lion King. And you're like, okay, why? Because The Lion King made a lot of money. Who gives a
Or a little bit of a theory. Is this movie a Halloween greatest hits where we see every little trope from every Halloween movie up to this point? I mean, obviously barring the cult stuff.
I don't know, because all the good stuff in Halloween movies that I like are not in this movie, so I don't know if I would consider that.
Is it a
valid theory?
Like a scary movie trope fest? Then
to me, there's more stuff that happens in Scream 1 than what happens in the Halloween franchise as a whole. Not one kid turned into a bug monster snake face. Remember in the third one when their heads explode of bugs and snakes? The heck?
This always felt like Halloween light to me.
Yeah,
Halloween
light. I
it's
agree.
Just, it's missing too many little things.
It's
Halloween for the late 90s crowd.
It's triple filtered, it's like you go see this at a drive-in, and if it's the first movie playing, when like the first movie plays and the sun hasn't gone down enough yet for you to be able to like fully enjoy the movie, the movie would already be over before that happened. So they had to play it third or second. But you're right, it feels like a very distilled version. There's still like a decent amount of gore, and some of the gore in this movie I was like, wow, effective, very good. But then you're like, other stuff, it's like missed opportunity. Like what are you doing over here? Why did you spend all your money on this fucked up leg effect and then just you didn't have time and effort for the rest of it, or what? I don't know the answer, but like there are some really competent effects, and then you're like weighing that out against like the shittiest Michael Myers mask of the entire franchise. You're like,
I agree completely.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis for this Halloween movie,
go
all in and don't do off-screen kills.
Bring back fucking John Carpenter, bring back Jamie Lee Curtis, put it like a 20 million what was it? 17 million is the budget? Yeah. Make it a $30 million budget. Yeah, you can do it. John Carpenter asks for 10, give him 12. Give him 12.
Give him $50 million.
We're on the same page.
So the cops do find that the office with the news articles. One of the cops is like, Mike Myers, yeah, right, which I kind of touched on. We get the credit sequence.
They also do like they make like a weird point, just to not to get ahead of where we're at still with the two cops. They make a very specific point to let us, the audience, know that no, Michael Myers is not an old man. He's probably like 32. Like he's like a young man. But I'm like, why do they have to do that? Like there's so much math in the movie already existing that you don't need to do that. But I'm like, are people that stupid that or are movie producers so worried about people being that stupid that they're like, people are going to think he's like 100 years old. It's not going to be believable. It's like, why? It's like the movie came out 20 years ago. So he'll be what, 50? It's like, no, he was like a literal child when he murdered his sister in the 60s or whatever, right? I don't know the exact like timelines of everything, but it's like, no, he wouldn't be. He would just be a young man. And like, they didn't need to tell me that for me to know that, but I guess, and then they have the moments later on where they have like the 17 on the birthday card being like 20 years ago. It's when I was 17. That means I'm 30. Like it's like, why are they doing all this math? Just don't worry about it. Are people that concerned?
And like, well, I am.
Okay,
But yeah,
you're
I'm a
like
ridiculous
you have like a
Halloween
calculator, you have an
envelope too.
abacus like in the movie theater on your third
No.
visit. You're like,
Like I could very well be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure the story of Laurie Strode is that she was adopted as a baby, so she
Mhm.
would have been younger than Michael.
Mm.
So
so he's slightly older,
Jamie Lee's not exactly young in this movie,
right?
which means Michael's
She's
at
37.
least probably. She was 37 in this.
She's supposed
She was
to be.
30. She was 39 in real life, and she's 37 in the movie.
There's a very specific moment
wow.
where her boyfriend asks, "How old were you when that happens?" And then it does a close up on the fucking birthday card that says 17, and she's like, "I was 17, and that happened 20
Oh, I
years
forgot
ago."
about that.
Yeah.
I'm the
Yeah,
same
okay.
age now as Jamie Lee Curtis was in this movie. She's been eternally way older than me my whole life, which is true.
Yeah,
But to look at her in this movie and be like 39, hard living, or I don't know. But I think it's that thing. She looks good, but I think it's that thing of people just like looked older, or the generation before us. I don't know.
it's got to be
you're
because she looked a lot older than that to me, and I'm 3 years older than she was in that movie.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
maybe we all just think we look like younger than we actually look. Like, pretty sure we
Maybe-
all look
maybe.
our age. We all look our age, guys.
Madison age checked me. She was like, "We
You leave
look
it alone.
old."
Yeah, it's like, how old do you think you look? Like, fuck. Jason's
I'm
got
looking-
like a fucking Mr. Fantastic silver band on the side of his head. He's like, I look 24 years old over here.
I'm 25. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you're
So-
like grunting to shove yourself into your fucking skinny jeans or whatever, you're like,
Yeah.
I
Listen,
swear to God, I look fine.
I didn't discover skinny jeans until I was 30. Okay, and then you pack everything right up in there. So
Yeah.
I'm wearing boot
some
cuts
right
today.
now. I'll tell you, I
Okay.
had to undo them when I sat down.
Oh my god!
Yeah, they turned
Nothing
into
will make
Hulk
you
shorts.
feel.
Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
the stretchy kind. They're the
Nothing will
kind
make
that
you feel older than watching a
cut
movie
off
from
circulation to your
1998
feet.
where the mother character is the age you are now.
When the character who is your age in real life has a 17-year-old son.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
The age I guess we all think we look, according to Jason. I look
Yeah.
like Josh Hartnett, right? In this
I look
movie?
like Josh Hartnett in 1998, right?
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I watched Trap, and he still looks good, but he looks like a
Yeah.
different person in 2024.
He's like 20,000 times hotter than he was in this movie, that's for sure. But I mean, Josh Hartnett's one of those weird guys where like I get it. Like I look at him, I'm like, yeah, he's hot, but at the same time, I'm like, but why? Like he's just like a thick-necked, dumb-faced looking weirdo with like fucked up hair. Every time you see him, he has weird hair. Like the back of his hair is sticking up.
I
Like,
want to say,
he's got cowlicks in all the wrong places, is what I'm
I
trying
want
to
to
tell you
say
here.
to that note, he kind of looks like if Michael Myers was a person in this movie. don't know if you
I
guys
noticed
got
that too.
He's
Because
pale.
the
his
Myers
hair, he's
mask
got the
has the same
same
hair.
fucking yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that might have
Yeah.
been intentional.
That's so
He
weird.
did. He would wear a beanie in between takes.
To make his hair all fucked up.
And he wanted to have fucked up hair. He would actually cut his own hair on set, just to like, he didn't want to be that standard like introducing new Hollywood hot guy.
Look
He's
how
like,
hot
he
he
wanted
is,
to be
kind of
incredible
weird
actor.
looking.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And he is. He always has
I've
been
heard-
weird, but I think
Yeah,
weird people
I've
stand
heard-
out, like Wes Bentley in American Beauty.
Yeah, I've heard that about him like over the years. Also, I watched Trap as well. That movie kind of rules. I like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Trap.
I heard so much. I heard so much smack about it, but I think that's sort of like the M. Night Shyamalan curse. Not curse, but like just like the bog brain of people still thinking that he sucks from like when
It's always
The
going to be
Happening came out
judged.
or whatever.
Yeah, it's always
Yeah.
going to be judged on a weird sliding scale because of M. Night Shyamalan's like hit or miss history after a certain point.
But it's like it wasn't
like-
really a hitter. It wasn't really a hit or miss history. It was like one movie was weird enough that even people who liked his weird shit were like, "This is maybe too weird." Like I don't really like this.
Are you kidding me? What a rip!
And then after that, everybody's like, "He sucks forever." But like almost every movie after that, I was like,
I
I
like-
still am kind of into this. I kind of like.
I
this.
liked
kinda-
I thought Old was great, and I cannot wait to go back
But that's
and watch.
more of a recent one. I'm talking like
Yeah.
like the Visit was kind of interesting and strange and really fucked up and weird. Old was really good.
Stuart
The Cabin in the
Little.
Woods was good. Stuart Little. Yeah, remember Stuart Little, his magnum opus. Yeah, anyway, just to say like
I mean,
it is
just a screenplay, but still.
Yeah, but Trap is very
was that
much
Abrams?
it is very much an M. Night Shyamalan movie, in like the way that like the dialogue is stilted and weird, and people have
So
conversations
fucking
that no human being would ever have in real life. You're just like, what the fuck?
The way that
am I
he talks in that movie is very much like, okay, I'm going to go get you some popcorn now, daughter. Please stay and watch the show. That
But I mean,
movie
like
was,
that's all very specific on purpose, right? Like, it's like people say like, oh, it's a bad movie, and it's like, no, that's on purpose. That the way he's doing that,
Yeah.
it's all anyway. I think it's really good, Ben. You should check it out. Maybe we'll do it on the show one day. We've done a lot of M. Night Shyamalan movies on this podcast.
People hated, just as a last thought on that, people hated Trap 2 because of the Nepo putting his daughter in it as like the pop star.
Oh, God
People
forgive.
hate nepotism. People hate nepotism.
It's so crazy though. It's like, what? Why not though? Like, why not? And you know what? She didn't do a bad job. If she
she's
sucked,
fine.
then I would be like, oh yeah, that's kind of weird. But he also puts himself in every fucking movie.
He
and
puts
everybody
himself in
complains
every.
about that. Yeah, including this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to H20
right.
over here.
Let's move the plot forward a little bit. We've been lollygagging. The new Halloween.
Well, my nickname in high school. Not even joking about that one.
Lollygagging?
No, H2O.
Oh. Because they're like water.
Well, because my last name is literally Waters.
Right. Hey, H2O, come over here. I want to show you a movie.
Mhm.
New Halloween theme slaps my face off my face. We get some recap from news articles and Loomis talking about it. So Loomis is kind of in this movie's the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. We get to hear that. Which
I
is
don't
always
think that
great.
was actually Donald Pleasance though, right? Like it was just like a new actor, I think, doing it because it didn't sound.
Yeah, it was
like
a voiceover by a different actor.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which is weird because
he
he's
couldn't get the raw audio for it.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, couldn't they just use maybe it just didn't sound as crisp and clean as they wanted it to, and it's like nowadays they would just use it. You know, they'd be like, "No, let's just use that raw, nasty, fucking grady bullshit. It sounds better." Yeah.
Right. So we open in a room, an office with a picture of Josh Hartnett on the desk, and a flashback to Mike Myers, and then we see the picture.
Can you not call him Mike Myers? Please call him Michael Myers.
Sorry. I've been trying to not say Mike Myers, but the picture stabbed and over to Laurie Strode, whose son is Josh Hartnett, John. And we see it turns out it's a dream. She rolls over. She's got the arm scar. I believe she gets cut in the second movie, or is it the first movie that she gets cut? But anyway, she's got a huge arm scar. And she just has so many pills. Apparently, one for nightmares, because she's like, "Can you get my pills?" Josh Hartnett goes to
pills, please.
he goes to a cabinet, and there's every prescription in history. And he's like, "Pills for nightmares, pills for nightmares."
If I had that many pills,
hilarious.
you best believe I have some sort of color coding system going on. Like
Right.
I'm gonna draw little weird things on them so that I don't have to look through a million goddamn bottles to find one thing. It'd have like highlighters and stickers, you know, like the pumpkins mean my Halloween pills, and it's time for a real crazy night.
And the hockey masks mean for after I watch Friday the 13th movies and think about Michael Myers coming to get me again.
And then these ones that are the weird thick rim glasses are when I watch the Austin Powers movies and I think Mike Myers is coming after me to kill me in my dream.
It's not very groovy, baby. Now it's actually Halloween. There's the birthday card from the dad who is this a birthday card to John? I'm blanking on this. Or is it a birthday card that reveals that Laurie was 17? Okay. Oh, right, because it's like your dad got you this card. He's 17 and he's going to go
his birthday's not on Halloween, right? Like it was just like within the week or something, like recent. Because that would be kind of fucking weird if his birthday is also on Halloween.
She was so stressed out that she got knocked up on Halloween. Or no,
that's not how pregnancy works. Yeah.
Yeah. She was so stressed out on Halloween she had him. Maybe that does work.
Oh, that makes more sense. Yeah, like she went into some stress related labor.
Yeah.
Michael Myers is coming. Oops.
It's been 15 years. What are you talking about? Right, but he's he's 17 and he's gonna go camping with some pals from school. And then we find out the backstory of his dad. He's like a heroin addict. He's a methadone addict, and I guess he's still alive because he did send this card, but it's not really focused on.
I honestly zoned out so hard at this point that I don't even know, and I don't really care because it's not in any way important to the story at all.
Right. But it is Halloween. That is important to the story.
Yeah.
But she's like, I didn't even notice. She noticed.
Do you think she actually didn't? Because her acting there made me be like, it seems like her character didn't actually know that it was Halloween. Because she almost is like, when he says Halloween, she's like, ding, 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 ding. Like she's having a realization like, oh shit, I forgot.
I think she knew. I think she was very aware. How could you not be
right?
hyper aware?
Just has to.
Yeah.
Just your lifelong trauma.
Just your fucking whole lifelong trauma, right?
But I mean, she's also like drinking lots and lots of vodka and wine and shit, which it made me uncomfortable, the amount that she was drinking. And because I was thinking about it, I'm like, she would be fucking sloshy. If you're just drinking like full glasses of vodka and then you're just going back for another and like, well, I don't know how you'd be able to keep your shit together.
No.
I've seen Trailer Park Boys,
but it's
and I've also fallen on my face a couple times in real life.
Even though this isn't the lead into the DGG Halloween trilogy, I can see this version of Laurie Strode ending up like the one we get in the new trilogy. I'm like, yeah, she's well on her way to looking like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird that like, why not just? I understand they want a clean slate for a lot of things, but like utilizing the other stuff is always more interesting to me. Whenever you're not willing to embrace it as part of it, that's why I fucking love Chucky so much. Is because no matter how dumb or weird an idea is that's happened in that franchise, they've never really wiped it away. And even like the smallest, weirdest thing that you wouldn't think would matter, they'll bring it back and they'll make it like super important. And I really appreciate that. That's why like I love that Don Mancini has been at the helm the entire fucking time, because he's like, no, I made my bed, I gotta sleep in it. Let's go. Who wants to get in the bed with me? And everyone's like, yeah, let's get in the bed with Don. Whereas this one, it's like they don't trust themselves, or they're like, fuck the last guy. Well, I can make it better. And I kind of hate that, you know, like. I think the only one of all of these series that's been rebooted and did an okay job was the Friday the 13th reboot, where I watched it and I'm like,
I agree with that.
They're not really fucking it up. They're just kind of doing a Jason movie, and if you know Jason, you know Jason, and it almost feels like it could still exist within that world. Yeah, we all know Jason. Everybody wave at Jason.
I actually have Child's Play, Friday the 13th, and Hellraiser all downloaded to watch through some cool reboots, and I'm excited for all three of those movies because
Hellraiser is also good because it doesn't really feel like a reboot either. It feels like it almost could. It still takes. They obviously got a new Pinhead, but like that's just because they're like, we can't have Doug Jones till the day he fucking dies. He's like a fat old man now. We can't stick pins in him anymore. He's like, no more pins, please. It's a waste of good.
You can't forget about the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, though.
So see, that's
that's one of
the the Chainsaw franchise has always actually kind of like fucked me up when I watch it. So
yeah, that's I'm still in a mind prison over the Chainsaw movies. It's the whole inbred family of rednecks with a chainsaw wielding maniac stuff. Still,
have you seen any of them, Jason?
I haven't seen a single one. I'm sure that I'm gonna watch like the 70s one and be like, that was nothing. But also, I could.
You're not going to say that, because I watched it recently again, and it's still fucking gross. It's so gross. Like the Chainsaw movies are gross. That is the thing that I'm like, I can't handle this. It's too gross. It's making me feel sick.
Almost no blood in the first one, though.
Yeah, but there's grosser shit than blood.
Yeah, the first-
Everybody forgets that there's grosser stuff
I know
out there
there
than
is.
blood,
It's
everyone.
pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
But the second one is one of the weirdest, most comedic horror films I've ever seen.
Is that the one with the cover of the movie? They're
go
the
so
Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
The posters they're set up like the Breakfast Club. Yeah, my dad
But
had that
even
in
the,
his t-shirt printing shop when I was a kid, and I looked at it and I was just like, "That what is?" I didn't get the reference yet. Even
really grimy about that series. That it's the same reason that I have a distaste for the Rob Zombie remakes of this franchise, where I'm like, that's kind of what I feel like Rob Zombie was trying to do. Is like, let's take what they did with Texas Chainsaw Massacre and use that as a reason for why Michael Myers is so fucked up. Except that he adds like even more layers to it, like him getting beaten or up at school and at home, and like everybody's like fucking their sisters or whatever. And you're like, oh god. So there's just something about that franchise that I've always like. I've seen them, but my brain doesn't like to hold on to it. My brain's like, no, purge it, or you're gonna have nightmares.
I mean, I'll bring us back to Halloween in a second, but Jason, I just want to say this before. Definitely check out the first 4 of the Texas Chainsaw movies, because the first one's just great. Second one, you got like Bill Moseley, who's hilarious. Third one, you have Viggo Mortensen, Ken Foree. Fourth one, you have Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. And then from that point on, it just gets mean and dark and unnecessarily brutal. But it's a franchise to check out. Like, you really are cheating yourself if you don't do it.
It's a grimoire. It's a grimoire chapter that will be added at some point.
It was also discussed because now we're done with Chucky. We're gonna move to Scream. You're coming back in October for Scream 1, but we did discuss Hellraiser and we discussed Chainsaw, and we were like, what a better way, because we're gonna be ushering out Freddy as well. So what a better way to move forward than to do Scream next, because there's 6 of them now, so infinite possibilities. But these franchises were discussed for the Grimoire, and it's an important thing for this podcast, and horror has become part of the DNA. Thanks, Steve. I wanted to do comedies, and you're like, can't talk about comedies really.
You mean you wanted to sit here and quote movies for fucking like an hour a week?
I learned my lesson when we did Trey Parker and Matt Stone month, and I learned a valuable lesson.
Let's just mimic the movie for an hour and a half.
Exactly.
Like, okay, that's fun.
But these horror movies are much more fun to pull apart, and I look forward to watching. I've seen every Hellraiser movie except for the remake because of this show, not for the show, but just tangentially. And the limits of human suffering. We're pressed by those last 4.
It's a waste of good suffering.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway,
yeah.
I think the point was
Halloween, right?
Yeah, the point was that the remake. What was even the point? Whatever. Fuck.
Remakes. Some of them are good and some of them are bad. We're over to the prep
that
school
was just like a rabbit hole that kept going down other rabbit holes. I'm like, now let's go down this wormhole. Yeah.
We're over to the prep school.
My first reaction was she's a teacher at Hogwarts, because like this she's got a fireplace in her classroom and there's vines everywhere. Ooh.
The one friend does accuse John of having an Oedipal complex and says he's going to end up running a weird motel, which that was the reference to Psycho I was talking about earlier.
There's a billion references to Psycho in this goddamn movie.
Yeah. And Laurie is seeing Michael Myers like her PTSD, which I thought was a good touch. And Michelle Williams is John's girlfriend.
It's done really well for most of the movie when she sees him and stuff. Like I like when she like looks into the reflection of the jewelry store or whatever and turns around and it's just her boyfriend. And you're like, okay, that's a fun in-camera trick that you know exactly how they did it, but it still like accomplishes the goal and it's fun. I like it. But I was expecting more. I wanted the like where she looks out the window and sees him like behind a bush or something, like wing, wing, wing. Like, give me some.
I also thought through that same idea that John was going to John does get one. No, Molly, Michelle Williams' character is the one that sees him like out the window, right? Or is it John? Anyway, we do see one of those moments where you see his face like move across a door, like a window in a doorway. But I thought John was going to be like final girl for this, but like I said earlier, and we'll get to
There's
it.
no
like,
final girl in this outside of the ultimate final girl, Jamie Lee Curtis.
The first and last final girl.
There's going to be an actual nuclear apocalypse, and then I'll be like dying in a desert, and then someone will be like a canteen will fall to my face, and it'll be like, and I'll be leaking water, and she'll be like, drink up, and then I'll look up and it'll be Jamie Lee Curtis, and be like, we got work to do.
Yeah, but Molly and
John Carpenter will be there, and we'll get into a dune buggy. It'll be great.
Played by Michelle Williams. There's this whole subplot where they're trying to go to Yosemite, excuse me, for camping.
That moment there, my fake dream scenario of me and Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter. You immediately said afterwards, played by who did you say? What actor did you say?
Michelle Williams.
Yeah, John Carpenter played by Michelle Williams. So it's Michelle Williams dressed up as John Carpenter. In my dream,
I'm into it. And Freddy shows up and he's like, a waste of good suffering. And every single horror movie just happens at the same time.
Pins in his face.
Yeah.
He's the size of Chucky. He looks like Freddy, but he's got pins in his head.
But instead, they want to have a Halloween party because all 4 of these weirdo misfits aren't able to go on the trip, which we'll find out the reasons for that in a minute.
Well, not true. He's not allowed to go, and then they all come up with ways to stay. So that they can stay with him. But
that's weird.
One of them is played by the young Alan Parrish from Jumanji, and like my immediate thing was like, I don't think I've seen him in any other movie other than Jumanji. I'm sure he's been in other stuff.
IMDb because he was in 14 things, and he's written as many things as he's been in. So his whole career has been just in the world.
When I saw him, I was like, holy shit, that's young Alan Parrish from Jumanji. I thought he got Jumanji'd. How is he in this movie? I thought he was trapped in a board game. But then he started talking, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't really like him. And then like the whole movie, he talks about sex like someone who's never had sex. And then all I could think of the whole time was like, I wonder if this kid has actually at this point in his life had sex, or like they fed him these lines and he's like, like every time he says something about sex, you're like, this guy's never seen it.
He's a proto incel.
Penis. Yeah, he's only seen his own weird penis.
Over to Highway 139 in California, a mom and daughter stop a road trip for the washroom, and then the Dodge Charger pulls up. They have to go into the boys' washroom, which they prop open. And did you notice the Bart Simpson graffiti? I don't know. I noticed that somebody basically drew El Barto on the wall. When they're inside, the door ends up closing because, of course, it does. Michael Myers takes the woman's purse. She can see him out of the crack of the stall, and all of this was to steal the woman's car. So naturally, I'm like, oh, he's going to fucking kill both of these. He's going to eat this kid, right? Nope. There's a bunch of little jump scare moments, which I thought was interesting. But basically, ultimately, what happens is the kid starts like getting scared of a bug or a
like
spider.
3 scenes. You're going to talk about these or
no?
what?
No, we are. I'm just setting the scene. This is me setting the scene. We can talk about everything that happens in here, but basically it ends with him getting the keys and leaving, and they end up surviving. So that's
I think my main note when they showed the public bathroom was I was like, this franchise loves a public toilet. Like they can't stop them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
A public can. Like, what's the scariest place on earth? Public washroom. Yeah,
public washroom.
I agree.
If you're
public washroom that is like disconnected from any structure other than the washroom itself. Like
I'll
if
be right
it's
back.
its own thing, it's even worse. And then you're like, what is the scariest type of public washroom? One in a park, one in a gas station, one in the middle of nowhere. This seems like just like a rest stop. Like I am so happy that they started building those giant, ugly, disgusting rest stops all over highways and stuff, because you can pull in and there's like 1,000 people there, no matter what time of day it is.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing worse than like having to pull off to like a gas station and there's just like one guy in an eye patch picking his teeth with his gun with a knife on it. Like,
at the same time, though, man, like when you pull off to one of those rest stops and you know, like, the bathroom's probably not going to be that big, and you look at all the restaurants that are in there and they're all like Taco Bell, McDonald's, A&W, you're like, that bathroom is not going to be
It's
great.
fucked. But then there's like
It's just not.
5 people like cleaners on standby. You know, there's like people with mops just ready to go.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
like, someone's gonna have diarrhea or barf. Like that is the purpose for this building is to pull off the road to
It's
either
guaranteed.
eat or shit.
Yeah, it's not exactly. You're not resting when you go to one of these.
No, yeah. I mean, I guess there's like those lots for like truckers to sleep, but yeah, that's not what it's designed for. It's for people who are having horrible
shower
highway sickness. Yeah. They have showers?
But I do find this scene in that bathroom. Yeah, some of them do.
Wow.
This scene really sticks with me for the franchise. And I feel like David Gordon Green in the newer trilogy, in that also that public washroom scene where he like drops the teeth and everything. I really thought it was a callback to this one, because this is, I have to say, unfortunately, this public washroom scene is the most tense scene in the entire film. And it's a throwaway.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like in it, I think it, you know, you remember like the Ken Foray scene from the zombie movies, the Rob Zombie movie, where it's like it's essentially the same scene, except it's like, again, 10 times grosser, where it's like, what'll make this scene gross? Oh, it'll be a big giant truck driver guy, and he's got to take his whole fucking overalls off to take a dump, and then he's just gonna talk about his dump the whole time. And then another guy comes in and he's like, "You're gonna have to get out of here because I just ate a whole bunch of nasty fucking Mexican food, and I'm gonna shit. I'm gonna paint the walls with my shit." And you're like, oh my god. And then it like just escalates from there. And like that scene is just pure disgusting bile. And then this scene is just, you're just like tense and scared. You're scared for the mom, you're scared for the little girl, you're scared because there's no one in there, there's no like antsy music. I mean, there is music, but you've already seen the car, you kind of know everything that's going to happen.
Yeah,
which is again one of the issues I have with this movie, is that every single thing is extremely predictable. But this was I think, like you said, it's the most tense because it is the least predictable. You do expect him to kill, but at the same time, it's a little girl, and you're like, he's not going to kill a child.
He's not going to stab her with a butcher knife.
He only eats dogs.
What's his cutoff limit for age, though?
Yeah,
because they got like
Joseph
Gordon-Levitt at the beginning.
Yeah, if you're a horny teenager, then you get killed.
Young teens, but it's kind of like if you're in the way of him killing his family, that's when you get murdered. That's pretty much it. And
yeah, if she had popped
the
out
car,
and like, "Give me back my purse," he would have like smashed her head off the sink and then pulled the sink out of the wall and crushed her with it and then left. But because she just was like, "Don't say anything, be quiet," and the girl is like, the little girl's like humming or something, right? She's like,
Yep.
And so he knows they're in there. And you can only assume that he watched them go in there, and he's like, I just need to wait here until someone comes to take a nasty, disgusting Ken Foray shit. But no, I got this sweet.
Imagine if he got a huge 18-wheeler. He rolls into the place with an 18-wheeler up to the gate. That would be fucking hilarious.
Now you're thinking like Rob Zombie.
Yeah,
and honestly. I keep shitting
true.
on I keep shitting on Rob Zombie. I think Rob Zombie is one of the most interesting and cool seeming people. Like every time I see him in an interview or on like a podcast or something, I'm like, I like Rob Zombie. I think he seems like a very chill, normal guy who I would like to sit down and have a conversation with. But I don't think I like a single one of his movies. Like I don't, and it's always for the same reason. It's because he makes them mean and gross, and there's never anything kind of fun about them. And then the ones that he tries to have fun stuff in, he also will have like a horrifying rape sequence.
But then, ironically, House of a Thousand Corpses like isn't that bad because 75% of the movie is just the monsters.
Okay, but Jason, there's a difference between mean and the gore.
Right.
I'm not talking about gore. I'm talking about mean spiritedness and like having like rape as a storytelling device when you're also having comedy in it as well. And just like having things be dark and twisted for the sake of them being dark and twisted is not the same as something being like overly goring or disturbing. It's like, it just feels rude. Where I'm like, this movie is just being rude to us and expecting us to either clap or go, oh. And unfortunately, I'm one of the people that's like, oh, stop it, Robert. Robert Zombert. Why would you say that to me?
Robert Zombert. I'm gonna write that down. That's a shirt.
I'm sure someone's made that joke before. Robert Zombert. Anyway,
I thought I agree with you guys though. I think the scene was effective. I thought for sure she was toast, but like you guys both pointed out, like what's his upper limit on murder? Because like where does the kid go? Does she put on the clown suit that the little kid and the other? Was this a reference to that little girl because they kind of looked similar? You know, like I think this is like a greatest hits kind of a situation with this film, and they had to fit in a way to have a little girl be involved. Because where's that little girl now? Does she ever get brought back or mentioned again? Is she in Resurrection?
No,
she's just the rest girl. I think that
I found it weird too because like this is we already agreed this is one of the more tense scenes, but it's just Michael Myers' purse snatcher.
Yeah,
yeah. That's like that's what the head title, what the title was of the chapter, like the scene. That's what it was called. It was like Michael Myers' purse snatcher. But I think it's like they needed to have a sequence where they show that he does have rules, or at the very least, a direction. And if you don't get in his way, like you're saying, Jason, then you're safe, right? It's like, and that's a way to establish this, but also as the audience have an extreme moment of tension to be like a mother and a daughter alone. They're probably already the mom at least is very terrified to go into this fucking rest stop bathroom being like, fuck, I don't want to go in here, but I need to piss. And so does she. Let's just do this as quick as we can. And it's effective. It is very effective. So I don't know if I would say that it's a best of. I would say that this is just like an actually out of a lot of failed attempts at storytelling in this movie, it's like the most effective, where it's like everything that you need to get out of this, you do. You understand rules for Michael Myers. You once again understand how he got all the way across the country. You didn't really need that, but then it also, you know, further establishes the type of fear you're going to experience. Because up until this point, it's kind of just fun, right? Like you don't see him kill anybody except the nurse. It's all after kills.
The headline. So I have like my notes, and then I have the like just, hey AI, just give me a scene for scene rundown in case I like get completely lost. And this section is called Michael's Journey West. Which I think
I just want to say one more. You said one more point to make. The last thing that it does is it feels like a kill sequence without being a kill sequence. So in this movie, there's a lot of no kill sequences, and this is something that makes you feel like he killed somebody in your mind or emotionally, even though he didn't. And there's another one later with LL Cool J in his little security guard hut or whatever, right? Where it's like in your mind, or not in your mind, but in your body, the experience of the film, somebody died there, but nobody actually did, right? Which is just like a clever way to devise horror, I guess, on screen.
That's good insight, because the whole point of horror is more so to
get your butthole tight.
Well, you feel the empathy with the people that are being murdered, right? You want to experience what they're experiencing. That's the essence of the horror in a horror movie, as far as I understand it. It's you're experiencing what they're going through, and to your point, Steve and Ben, for the most part, like this exemplifies Michael Myers' scariness. This is good horror. This scene is good horror.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, now it goes back to a mid-tier Scream movie.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing that kind of like bugs me about this movie is that, and it's the same thing. The same issue I have with the Chucky remake actually is that like it could function on its own, outside of Michael Myers. Outside of Chucky, like the Chucky movie is like a very competent horror movie that you could just remove the idea of Chucky from that and it would still be exactly what it is. You could slap a different name on it, being like, instead of a Buddy doll or Chucky, it's just like Slappy. The Slappy doll is coming for you. And in this, it kind of feels the same way. Like you don't really need it to be a Michael Myers story for it to be effective. There's definitely a little bit more weight to it, But you could remove it all and just have it be a haunted woman being like, when I was a girl, because she even does all that shit in the movie, right? We get the exposition coming up pretty shortly in the movie, which is just like she lore dumps on you for a second, but that's all you really need. And if you've never seen any Halloween movie up to this, you're caught up enough, you know? She didn't need to be like, and then I also heard that a cult got him, and then he was a clone of someone.
And then one time there was masks that if you put them on, your face explodes into bugs. That happened on Halloween as well.
Yeah.
And then Michael Myers was
all
in a
powered
movie
by a Stonehenge stone from Stonehenge.
Yeah.
And the Halloween masks were witches, skeletons, or fucking pumpkins.
Pumpkin heads.
You put a pumpkin head on your head, and then a bunch of snakes would come out of your mouth and eyes and nose.
And the nose especially. So
The Irish magical.
Yeah. They were speaking in Druish. I couldn't understand what they were saying.
They were a bunch of Druze. Listen,
Oh,
over to
Jason,
the
rude. Only they can use that word.
Druids.
Yes, Druids.
Yeah. So
Moon Druids, to be specific.
Moon Druids.
Yeah, of the Circle of the Moon.
That's a good name for a movie. It sounds like a 60s Monster of the Week sort of horror
Moon
movie.
Druids?
Moon Druids from Stonehenge.
Moon Druids, I think, are probably trademarked by Wizards of the Coast because it's a type of druid.
Okay.
Yeah. We're gonna get copyright struck just for mentioning it. Hasbro's gonna contact us. You can't talk about moon druids on your fucking movie podcast already.
The classic 1962 horror movie that started it all. Moon Druids from Stonehenge invented the idea of spooky masks that make you vomit snakes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Laurie has a work boyfriend, and at first I didn't know if he was, listen, I got a little sexist. I assumed he was the principal, but then it turns out, nope, she's the headmaster and he's a counselor. So she is the one head mistress.
Which sounds really sexual when you say it, right? You're like, what? She should just be the headmaster, not the headmistress. Also, just the title of master is kind of weird to have in any context ever anymore, especially in America. Am I right?
You just know it's somehow racist.
Yeah.
I think right. So then we're introduced to, after that's revealed, well, it's not revealed, I think she talks about it earlier, but enter the security guard played by LL Cool J, and he's just talking about erotic fiction. His whole thing in this movie is that he's on the phone with his like girlfriend or wife, and she's like, you got to stop.
The best part of the movie.
Focus on your job as a security guard and stop writing erotic fiction. This I can relate to because I feel like Madison, my wife, wants to be like, focus on your job as an IT professional and stop doing podcasts because they're not going anywhere. But
does your wife say that to you for real?
No. She's very supportive of my dream to be.
No,
I talked to her last week and she said, you guys are doing great.
Yeah. She's very supportive of my dream to write erotic fiction in podcast form.
Oh, yeah. It's just me and Jason fucking on the internet.
We're opening You See This Only account, and
oh, that's funny. God. I love this, though. I think it's maybe like, because I don't know, there's such sort of like a specific idea that you have of LL Cool J specifically as an actor. He didn't really have like a super long acting career in film. I'm sure that he still does. Yeah. And I, you know what, it's weird because like I think he's good. I think he's better than like 90% of musicians turned actors than you see. Like I would say that he's like, he's not like to the level of someone like Will Smith, but he's better than like Ice Cube. Like I think Ice Cube is great in specific roles for Ice Cube. Amazing. But I think that he has like a broader range. Like he could play more roles than like a lot.
I'm expecting Busta Rhymes to be hammy as fuck in the next one. And I'm also comparing it to
Busta Rhymes, charming as fuck in everything he's in. Terrible actor. Terrible fucking actor, but I like when he's in shit.
But Method Man, kind of legit as an actor. because he was in The
I
Wire. You know.
I would put him in the same boat as Ice Cube.
Okay.
I think LL Cool J, like, weirdly though, he became sort of like a horror movie actor. Like he pops up in a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, like Deep Blue Sea is one that comes to mind, of course.
Yeah, which also made me speculate, like, did he have like a weird clause in his contracts where it's like, I can appear to die, but I have to be alive in the end. Which I'm like,
I can have several gruesome deaths in one movie, but still alive.
But I'm coming back at the end to be like, it just grazed me or whatever. He did have that funny line at the end where he's like, no, like as he's like walking off screen, he's like, no, it just grazed me. Like you could hear him talking to his girlfriend on the phone, like, it barely touched me, just shot me in the side of the face. He's like, okay.
He's got a pool of blood under his head that causes like Laurie's hand to be so covered in blood that she uses.
He's also unconscious. Like,
yeah,
if a bullet struck you in the face and you didn't immediately die, you wouldn't get knocked unconscious. Anyway, logic.
Right.
We need to throw it out the window.
Yes. So we meet him.
He also stabs a shark in the eye at the end, or am I thinking of a different movie?
I think you're thinking of
a crucifix.
I think might be a different movie.
Yeah.
John wants to leave school to pick up a gift for Molly. Luckily, Molly is a romantic. I don't know why I wrote that. They kind of escape. I wrote, "What's the worst that could happen?" I thought something horrible was going to happen, but literally, it was just like they kind of like convinced LL Cool J to let them leave because they like live on campus. They're in like a prep high school situation, and they just it's very charming when they're talking to each other and interacting with each other, and they basically leave and go to town. And is there anything more to that?
No, I mean, it's all just kind of throwing bits and pieces in the stew at this point, right? Like they're cooking, but you don't really know what they're coming up with yet.
It's a light simmer.
Yeah,
I actually wanted to bring up something too that happens earlier that I thought was going to be the reason why this movie was called H20. And that as a kid, I thought water was going to be a huge effect, but water only really appears in that opening scene when the cops come and it's raining really hard. There's a caretaker who's like the shower in the men's washroom is clogged. And I was like, is there going to be some sort of flood later in this movie?
Jason, are you okay? I feel like you've been describing scenes in this movie so poorly, like throughout the episode so far.
What do you mean?
It's an old woman. She is her fucking assistant, and she's like, you said caretaker, like it was a janitor or something.
I don't know. I didn't really remember. I am fine.
Okay.
I am fine.
I feel like you're creating your own movie in your mind. I kind of like your version better, to be honest.
There were some things in this movie that like I was watching it with nothing affecting my like outside vision, and I'm still just daydreaming.
You're like staring at a glass of water, being like H2O. Yeah.
The H stands for Halloween. It's like, Halloween, of course it's there in the title.
Yeah.
Which is where Norman Bates would dump the cars of the people that stop by the motel. Another psycho link.
Yeah.
But you know who plays the assistant, right?
Oh, is that like a psycho star? Is it her?
Well, it's Janet Leigh. It's Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, who was in
Psycho.
Yeah, in Psycho. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
She's the one that famously dies in the shower, right?
Yeah. And the license plate on her car is like NFB 418 or something, which is like Norman Bates' initials. And
for life.
Norman for life Bates.
Yeah. And then it's Norman Bates and BZ or NDZ, which is need these nuts or whatever. But then like she also says the shower drain is clogged again, of course. That makes way more sense in my brain now.
Oh,
yeah, I was like,
it's a rep. Okay.
She dies in the shower. Yeah. In my brain, I was like, why is she like, of course? I'm like, what are these girls just fucking like shedding? Like they're not feeding them enough protein. They're all shedding hair and clogging the fucking the drains up.
I thought that there was going to be a flood and it was going to be, but it was not even a red herring. It's a reference.
Yeah. It's just a nice little moment.
Yeah,
where Jamie Lee Curtis is interacting with her mom, another scream queen, and then she
there are
goes
so many people
and...
have been trying to find
I'm sorry, I didn't know. Go ahead. What were you saying? What were you saying?
No, it's fine. It's just stupid. It's like a lot of people are trying so hard to make this water link work. They're like, well,
yeah.
it's water. The pH balance of water is 7, and this is the 7th movie in the franchise. Like, no, it says Halloween H20 20 years later. You don't need
That was
you
another-
don't need the water part.
But
I
I
was
mean, you
gonna
also
ask-
don't need the giant H2O in your fucking movie poster to like it's so wild because
I
it
was
makes it
gonna
seem like
ask
it's
you
the
guys-
20th movie, you know, or like there's been
That
20
too.
of these.
Really
I was going to
does.
ask you guys if it wasn't made clear by me like reading about the movie all day, and every time you see it, it says 20 years later. When I was growing up, I just knew it as Halloween H2O, and I thought 20 years later was like a poster tagline. So this whole time since 1998, I thought that he's back and he's made of water or something. You know what I mean? Like I thought it was just there was a water. No, I didn't actually think that, but I thought that there was some sort of link to water. So when she comes and she's like, "Oh, the shower's clogged," I was like, "Oh, is there going to be a final? Is he going to get
You're like, so
electrocuted
that's
in water?"
H2O. They're gonna have a water battle up to their waists in water. Just it would have looked cool.
It would have looked great.
Cool.
Jason, it makes sense,
Arc
man.
in the eye with a crucifix, and it would have ended
It
perfect.
totally makes sense. And I know it's H20, and to this day, I still call it H2O.
Yeah,
Like, everybody does.
Because
Everybody.
it's zero,
So
not
I could easily
O.
see like looking for like where is this water element?
Yeah, it's
exactly.
H20. The movie's called Halloween H20 20 years later, not H2O. It's like when people call Final Fantasy X Final Fantasy X, thinking that's the name of the video game. There's been lots of people in my life that have done that, and I'm like, nope, it's not just one called Final Fantasy X because came out in 2001 when everything was called X.
Okay. All right. Calm the frick down over here.
I am okay.
Let's not forget the classic film Jason 10.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And that's the confusion for people, I think.
Do you think that Elon Musk's son is actually named 10 and we've all just been calling it the wrong thing?
Well, his son's named like XAE or whatever.
Oh,
and the A and the E are the same letter.
I don't know.
Listen, Laurie goes to town. She sees kids dressed up and has a PTSD attack. Will shows up. They get lunch. He's a counselor, as I found out at this point. She gets another glass of wine, and he like leaves. And she's like, "Yes, I'll have another," and slams the glass of wine while the glass is being put on the table. But she's self-medicating, quite frankly,
which is like
real.
actually kind of like a really cool. Like I don't think I've ever seen this done like this before in a movie. If it has been, feel free to send it to who gives a fuck at eatmyass.piss or whatever. But like I just think it's like a really excellent way of showing sort of alcoholism in a way that's like immediately recognizable without having to explain it. To the point that they do explain it in a way later on that I'm kind of like, not needed. I already understand, right? Like if you don't get that she's an alcoholic from that moment, then you're just not watching the movie, you know. Like
there's also a neat horror moment where she's like chugging this wine, and there's some some teenagers kind of like playing around outside, and it's I think like a Grim Reaper and a girl, and she's bloodied up, and she like hits against the window, but her hands have blood on them, so she leaves like a blood trail, which is so like it's weird. Like, did she see that? You know, like did she just see that, or did we all see that? It's reminiscent.
Like she's just kind of thinking about all the crazy fucked up things that she saw 20 years ago.
Yeah. Why would somebody on Halloween be already bloodied up at like 4 p.m.?
Because you go to school, you put on your costume at 9 a.m. and then you regret it at 11 a.m. before lunch. You're like, why did I wear all this fucking shit? I have to wear it all day. I'm so goddamn hot. I'm wearing a mad scientist wig and giant rubber gloves that go up to my elbow and a full lab coat.
It sounds like
why did I wear these goggles as well?
Right.
That didn't happen to me. I'm not telling a real story right now.
It's just hypothetical.
Why did I dress as Sherlock Holmes in full gear with the hat and the fucking giant coat and everything? Do I have to wear this all day, or will people call me a pussy if I take it off?
I think it's the opposite of that, maybe.
Yeah, I think they kill you, pussy. You left it on.
Yeah.
Oh no. I won't. I didn't want to take the risk.
So John and his friend are rolling around town. They're trying to get liquor, as it turns out. And she catches them almost immediately. We learn that the other guy's name is Charlie. Or maybe we knew that already. I don't know.
we knew that. Yeah, we knew that.
Okay. And
I call him pervert though, because
a little pervy
he's
boy.
clearly breasts, but he talks about him like he's made of them. He's a breast monster from Final Fantasy X.
Do you know what day it is? Michael Myers is dead. Basically, she reveals that she does in fact know what day it is, and he turns the tables on her and says that Michael Myers is dead and never going to come back. And then, he's there. Michael Myers is in town, as we know already. And we hear the Sandman song again.
We don't actually know
we
that
don't
yet until this next sequence, when she drives them home, even though she's like a bottle and a half of wine deep.
That's a good point. I'm realizing.
I assume if you're that much of an alcoholic, she found several other creative ways to down like several more glasses of Chardonnay during that lunch. Where she's like, "Oh, I'll be right back. I have to go take a shit." And then she like goes and she's like, "Give me the bottle." Like takes it to the bathroom, just in the bathroom, and then drives them back.
Bottle service.
Yeah.
Oh, this was cool too, because when they get back to the school, Michael Myers just like drives by slowly and in his new.
That's what I mean. That's when you
truck.
know. That's when you know that that he's in town. You can kind of see. I was trying to because we know it's him, the audience, and I was like, "Can he see him? Can you see him? Can you see him?" Windows are a bit tinted, but I think you can see him. Right? You guys saw him? I was trying to.
I tried really hard, but I didn't.
Okay. Oh, in the vehicle?
Yeah, through the windows. I was like, is he wearing the mask? Does he ever take the mask off, even when he's alone? I think the idea is
the Mandalorian, where it's against his honor to take it off.
I think he's more like Rorschach or whatever from Watchmen, where actually no, that doesn't make sense because Rorschach takes his mask off all the time to become
Constantly.
a picketing stink
It's
man
more
or
like
whatever.
The haunted mask from Goosebumps.
Yeah,
there you go. You
Where
can't take
it
it
just
off.
becomes part of you, and you can't take it off.
But I know in the zombie, or is it the zombie movie? I don't know what the fuck. I don't know.
it's like the movie Clown, where the guy puts on the clown costume and he can't get the mask off.
Well, we know
They
he
pull
can get
his-
it off. But I think if you wear anything for long enough, it starts to fuse to your body, right? Isn't that how your skin works? Like if it's touching something for long enough, it grows into it.
Yeah, that woman that sat in a chair for 30 years and she got fused to the chair.
Yeah, she became chairwoman, and now she defends Earth from asteroids or whatever.
All right, believers, I got a new Excelsior. I got a new character.
Yeah. People might think she sits around all day, but she can stop an asteroid from hitting the Earth. How, you might ask? Well, I'm going to spend the next 2 hours explaining it.
It's an Avengers level threat. Okay, so Ronnie's in trouble here because after they go in, the truck pulls up, and Michael Myers, of course, does this little disappearing act repeatedly. And now we're doing kind of like a cut back and forth thing. Molly's in the kitchen. She gets the flowers. And then she goes down the spookiest hallway I've ever seen. And I wrote, I'm sure she's going to get chopped in half. But nope, jump scare. It's John, and they have a little Halloween date set up. He's like, I don't really celebrate Halloween, but I want to get in your pants. So I'm celebrating it this year. And we've got a psychotic serial killer in the family that likes to butcher people on Halloween. What's more romantic than telling the girl you're trying to court that the reason why you're so fucking weird on Halloween every year is that there's a masked man who is coming to kill you?
I mean, I can't think of one. I really can't.
And then they have their little dance or whatever. Cut to they're back in class. I really liked this scene particularly, where Laurie is. I guess she's the headmistress of the school, but also she teaches like literature, like a literary English kind of class, and she basically tells the story of Frankenstein's monster and Dr. Frankenstein that sounds exactly like the plot to Halloween. She basically explains it in a very similar way.
She basically says, explain the plot of Frankenstein to one of her students. The student more or less does that. And then she, in that sort of synopsis or analysis of the idea of Victor Frankenstein having nothing left to lose and fighting the monster, makes her realize that, like, that's what I have to do. I have to fight the monster before I'm in a position where I have nothing to lose. Because she does have something to lose.
So heavy-handed.
Her beautiful baby boy. Yeah, it's very heavy-handed.
But I liked it. I thought it was.
It's good. It's very good... it's not hard to digest. It's not hard to understand. It's just a thing that, like, it's meant for us as the audience, but it's also sort of like, let's let Jamie Lee Curtis have a moment of, like, I want to see, like, several emotions on your face here, and like, and she does a good job of it. But like, I don't think it's particularly bad. But you're right, it is heavy-handed. It's not. It is
heavy-handed. I'll agree with that for sure.
To, like, sit down and be like, what does it mean? It's like the movie is telling you, like, literally what you're supposed to think. Yeah.
And so I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's Molly that does. This is where we see Michael Myers outside.
Girlfriend,
reminiscent of the hedge scene from the original movie, where he just kind of like appears. Creepily
across the street behind the car.
Yeah. Which I love. I love them. I love the Michael Myers walking behind something aesthetic. Can we turn that into
I like the half. Him being half hidden is always fun.
New Nightmare last week did a really good job of the kid just always being like over there, which irks me. A kid just like, 1, 2, Chucky's coming for you. Nope. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Yeah, I know. Shut up. And the kid's just like over there. Like the way they shot this kid in scenes in that last film, he would look like Chucky. Maybe that's what my brain did there.
Yeah.
It turns out that Laurie is now okay with him going on this camping trip, which kind of fucks up their plan to have my super special Halloween party with the crew. But he's like, I'm not going to that. And the Halloween theme does play while we see all the kids getting into buses. So is this one of those movies where if you're hearing the Halloween theme play, you know that Michael Myers is watching? Is this
no?
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get that, but there's a lot of choices that were made about this film that I don't fully understand.
Yeah, I think that the Halloween theme is just such a fucking good theme that you can play it
just
at any
banger.
point. Just this sets the tone, baby.
I thought the story too here was going to be more focused on the fact that everybody thought these 4 kids were going on the trip, even though they all had their reasons to not go on the trip, that they were just not going to be accounted for in Yosemite. So they were all going to be disappeared by Michael. But that everything that I've like thought up in my head is almost better than what actually happens in the movie. Like,
he wasn't allowed to go.
Watching it.
Yeah. So they all made up, like, he failed his test on purpose, and they all basically made up a way to stay so that they could stay together to have an orgy or whatever that little pervert was talking about earlier.
He wanted to have a 4-way, and
he said that we can have a rolling orgy. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, they just like move from room to room. Like,
you have an attractive girlfriend. Why don't you focus on her? Let them.
Well, I stand by my theory that he has never had sex. He just talks about it constantly because he's we could lick each other's nipples. You guys ever thought about doing that? Or?
Probably one of the biggest stereotypes in this movie, for sure.
Yeah.
He's straight out of a Friday the 13th
is
movie.
like seems like he's supposed to be like a horny teenager who is succeeding in having sex, but the way the character is acting, it seems like they told the kid the line like just before, And he was like, "What? You want me to say that like on camera? Holy fuck! I can't believe I'm gonna say that on camera."
I have to say though, I do feel really bad for that actor because
he got sucked
didn't
into
even
Jumanji.
know.
Yeah, me too.
Well, no, because he didn't know that was the character he was going to be playing for the movie.
Who did he think he was going to be playing?
Well, when he auditioned for the role, the script was completely different, and it was one of those like it's Michael Myers, but there's also a copycat killer, which they ended up using for the last DGG Halloween film, right? So he was supposed to be the copycat killer, and then they had to do all the rewrites and everything, but they still kept him on, and then he ended up with this like embarrassing, horrible, like piece of shit. No one likes me. Yeah.
My headcanon that as I'm watching the movie and trying to predict what's going to happen, and you telling us about the alternate scripts, like this movie is pretty good. They ended up with something that is like passable, and like I enjoyed it personally. You guys have, your likes and dislikes about it, but everything else, we've encountered this before on the show where when you find out what was supposed to happen, you're like, well, why didn't you just do that? Because it's way better. The copycat killer element makes Michael Myers' current iteration make way more sense too.
I think we all understand that like the business of show is way more complicated than like anybody can ever predict, right? So like sometimes shit just ends up the way it is, and then the what ifs are always better than the reality of a thing. So, like I try to enjoy what we got more than think about what could have been. Because then sometimes you think something would have been great, and then like a couple years later you realize like, oh no, I'm really glad they didn't do that. Remember like when you hear like, imagine Will Smith as Neo from The Matrix, and people are like losing their minds, being like, that would have been so crazy and cool. And I'm like, not anymore.
No.
Yeah, not anymore. It wouldn't have been.
We would probably look back at The Matrix as like kind of hokey because of the way he plays hero characters. Like Keanu Reeves was kind of like a finding himself again at that time, so it made sense. Like he was kind of having a resurgence.
I was just trying to be funny, Jason. I wasn't trying to.
Well, and I'm bringing. I got to bring up Final Fantasy on this very episode, so I guess we're both.
We compared the nerd kid to a boob monster from Final Fantasy X, our favorite monster.
Our favorite monster. Can I ask you guys a question about this weird, seemingly throwaway scene? I was sure when the woman approaches Laurie, kind of bugging her, she's like, I don't like to see like this. Is that woman a reference or a character from one of the old movies, or is she like, is this sequence or if this is a cameo? Because this seemed kind of out of place.
I was also kind of doing.
Are we talking about Norma, the assistant?
Oh, is that the caretaker?
Yeah, the caretaker.
Your caretaker.
Oh, okay.
The thing
I
is
didn't even
like
realize it was the same.
Thing
person,
is, Jason, your first image of her in your mind is her wearing a Michael Myers overall with a mop bucket, talking about the brains. You forgot.
Played by Michael Richards from UHF.
Yeah. There's
Okay,
too much pubic hair in the drains, headmistress. What are we gonna do?
But anyway, okay. Besides that, she's being very like passive aggressive to Laurie a little bit. I think it's meant to be like, well, you've been drinking a lot, and are you okay? So,
she's like,
okay.
You're not gonna take my keys away from me again, okay? I go walk. My house is right over there. Which is true. They live on the property of the school, right?
And her advice is like super dumb. She's like, chin up, kid. Take it one day at a time. Like, it's been 20 years of her going through this. Yeah, and then she hits her Happy Halloween.
Yeah, cringe moment.
Yeah. This is also in the 90s where like everybody was about nepotism. Like it's not like now where anytime nepotism is happening in a movie, everybody fucking shits their own diapers or whatever. It's like in the 90s when like a mother and a daughter were on screen together, people were just like, give me more. I love it. 2 generations. Like people would lose their mind. Like you talk to your parents even, and like if an actor has an actor son from their era, they're like, did you know? And they're like so excited to tell you about the fact that like Clint Eastwood's son is also an actor in movies. Like they fucking love it.
Well,
Now
Kurt
it's
Russell's
like,
son actually plays the fake Captain America in Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's
I'm
going to be
talking-
in Thunderbolt. So,
but I'm talking about like the golden era, you know, like
Yeah.
the old like black and white movie actors when they had like an actor in the 80s or something, or like an actor from the 70s who was an actor in the 90s. It's like they fucking love it. And now it's like, you know, what's his name? Jack Quaid is like dodging bullets, being like, listen, I swear to God, I recognize my own nepotism and everybody is allowed to hate me, but like I swear I do work hard. And it's
O'Shea
like,
Cube also is the same way. He's like, I saw a tweet where he's like, oh yeah, forgive me for not having a hard life. You know, just, you know, like I'm doing my best. I show up. They show me on Raw because I've been in 4 movies. Like he's on Monday Night Raw, and it's really funny when he's called a nepo baby. When it's like, no, I get these privileges, but it's not like I'm a megastar. I think Jack Quaid is more like looks more like Meg Ryan. He's more of a Meg Ryan to me.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to do with.
Do you think anybody?
The fuck?
Do you think anybody ever called Jamie Lee Curtis a nepo baby though?
I don't think the term was coined yet.
You know, like I don't think the term was coined until in terms of show business, like at least like nepotism obviously is a word that's existed for a very long time.
Right,
but
but like, do you think like the feeling was there?
I don't think so. No,
because
I think
I think she set
because
the
back
bounds
then it was like your parents are famous actors. You're obviously going to become an actor. It wasn't like now where it's like, oh, you're
the point of what I'm trying to say is like your parents, my
family
parents,
business.
They were happy about it when they would see it, right? They would see Jamie Lee Curtis and be like, "Did you know that her mom was in the fucking classic Alfred Hitchcocky movie, Scream? I mean, Psyche." You're like, "Oh yeah, I knew that. I knew that, Mom."
I was thinking about this actually specifically today because I just started watching The Righteous Gemstones, and I was like, if you're just raised in a televangelist family, of course that's going to be your whole life. So of course you're going to act in like that and be like that. So I was raised in like a pretty poor family, so I do poor shit all the time, even though I got a little bit of money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I don't really know the point that you're making.
Well, the point is like you're gonna do the things that you were raised to do.
Oh, so like if you have money, you're
kind of follow the footsteps.
You're like, I still sometimes make a Dorito sandwich or whatever.
Exactly. I love ramen noodles. They're delicious.
Yeah. Every now and then some KD.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm talking like the
KD,
shitty gas station ramen too. Like I'll throw that into a bowl and cook
7-Eleven taquitos. Baby.
Oh yeah.
Let me boil up 3 Mr. Noodles and just have a giant salad bowl full of noodles.
It's raw. I'm having a cheap ramen right now. $3 for just all you can eat. Juice it up a little bit with an egg, and I'm a master chef.
One of my favorite like TikTok trends is like you add an egg to ramen, and it's like how I feel when I add an egg to ramen. It just plays this like soulful sounding like Asian music, like you're like,
or it cuts to like a scene, a shot from The Bear. Get it together, cousin.
Never watched The Bear. Is that the documentary where the guy gets eaten by a bear at the end?
It is, and it takes place in
it just all happens at a restaurant.
In Philadelphia. So okay, let's
see where a guy gets eaten by a grizzly bear at the end of the restaurant.
Let me finish this page for you guys. The bus leaves and Michael Myers enters the school while the buses leave. Ella Cool J is writing some BS again, is what I wrote. I think we're going to have our next murder. I think Steve has already debunked that. Michael Myers just walks.
This is where I start to get kind of I get kind of chafed with the movie, because this is where I start predicting everything, and I'm like,
right,
I get it. I've seen a lot of movies, but also just like pattern recognition for horror is very strong in the 90s, but it was also when they were trying to break it a lot. So I was getting annoyed that my predictions were so correct. And it made me get annoyed with the movie where I'm like,
it was kind of funny though that like Ronnie goes out and like starts looking at the car because he pulls the car up and gets out. He's looking at the car, and then Michael Myers just like walks behind him into the school, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though he's doing this little disappearing act thing that he does. And Ella Cool J goes and tells his girlfriend on the phone that, you know, something's weird. Michael Myers is, of course, there. Michael Myers cuts the phone out, and then I think that's all we see of him from there. So that's what Steve was talking about earlier, that it's like a kill off screen, but isn't, because it goes over to Laurie, and she also sees Michael Myers at this point.
I should also say that like
later.
Some people also get really upset with these types of moments too, right? Like they consider it like a blue balling, right? Where it's like, oh, I didn't get my kill. And it's like, yeah, but like all of the emotions that you experience that are the ones that are the most poignant, you still experience. You just don't get the release of like, or the relief of somebody dying on screen or whatever, right? I don't know. There's probably many sort of like psychological analyses, like papers written about this type of feeling people get when they're watching movies. But go ahead.
With this character, it's like the double fake out, because we get that fake kill again, right? So you just kind of, even if you struggle to let that first one go, they show you what you think is the character dying, and then you're like, oh wait, no, it was just like a graze. So
this is when it's like he's just floating around the security booth, and he leaves him alone. But like you're also like, he better not die at this point, because like we're just getting into the meat and potatoes of his erotic novel. We're just kind of establishing the relationship of him and his girlfriend on the phone. Like we're finally getting to hear her voice a little bit more clearly. I don't want him to die at this point. And when the fake out death happens when he gets shot, I was like, nah, he's not dead. Even when he looks dead, I'm like, he's not dead. He's gonna come back later. We know it. It's LL Cool J. He has a secret clause in all of his contracts, or it said like they forgot to like turn the page around and use a magnifying glass to be like, I cannot die in the movie. You can kill me on screen, but I have to show up at the end being like, the shark only bit my inner thigh. My penis still works, or whatever.
Over to Laurie, like simultaneously, she sees him again, and her boyfriend like scares her by accident in this scene, and I think that she sees him, and then he also sees him here. What? And I don't know. It's not a well thought out thought. However, back over to the kids. Michelle's straight up watching Scream, right?
Scream 2, I think, because it's
Scream 2. Yeah.
Which it's all dimension.
Originally, So I Married an Axe Murderer, but they had to change it. So you can tell it's because inserted. It was a Mike Myers joke.
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
The
girls I thought it was because it was like foreshadowing the axe at the end, but I guess not. Makes way more sense the way you just explained it. Like, oh yeah.
The girls are interviewed with a counselor. Counselor walks in. They're getting ready to go out. There's a really gross date rape joke that's made here too, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna go out tonight and we're gonna put pills in so many boys' drinks. Okay. Okay, let's catch it up then. The kids are going out, and it seems like John hears or sees Michael Myers in the bushes, which I thought was a really like effective moment where he looks over, because you hear rustling. You were listening to it on headphones, Steve, so you know what I'm talking about. Yes. And he looks into the bushes, and he like I feel like he got a hedge moment there, but it was off camera. That's what it felt like. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
Nah, I don't know.
Okay. Every time. Yeah. Okay, so this is what I thought was happening earlier. I don't know what that was with over to Laurie. I can't remember what was happening, but now Laurie's back at home. She's getting tanked. Counselor shows up with a pumpkin. Do you know what it was? It was that scene where they both see Michael Myers like down a driveway, and then the counselor runs off to be like, "Hey, what are you doing over there?" I thought that he was going to get murdered straight up right there, but he survives. That was another like fake out, a weird fake out. But now over to their house, he shows up.
So
The
did you
kids
watch a different version than me? But I'm like, I downloaded the same version you watched.
Yeah, you have you got the one right off my hard drive there. But this is one of those parts of a movie where like a bunch of stuff is happening. It's cutting back and forth between scenes, so it's kind of hard to like describe because it goes right back to them, and now they break out of one room and into another and back down to that basement where they've set up a whole ass fire hazard.
Are we going to talk about the globe hall, the hallway full of globes? Anybody want to talk about that? Or is
I didn't clock that. What's that?
Nobody clocked.
No,
they show it like
neither.
5 fucking times. They keep walking through this one hallway, and it's like there's one giant globe. It's like one of those sort of like tan and brown and like leathery looking globes. Like it looks like an ancient globe, surrounded by like 100 regular small blue globes that you would see in a classroom, and they're all just piled up in a corner, and they keep walking past the globes, and I'm like, every time they walk by, I'm like, this globe is creeping me out. Why do we have to keep walking through the globe room
when they're in like the catacombs and there's just like shit piled everywhere? I didn't recognize that there's just a pile of globes.
There's a giant pile of globes. It's crazy. It's like too many globes. Or you're like, that can't be stable. Like one bump and those globes are going everywhere. They're around, people.
Well, I know that this was shot at a real school.
I can't believe you guys didn't notice the globes. What the fuck?
According to Wikipedia,
I just brought it up and saw it right now. It's you're completely right.
It's a lot of globes, right? I'm not.
According to Wikipedia, the Hillcrest Academy scenes were filmed at the Kenfield Marino Estate in Los Angeles. So this was probably just there. This was probably a real place.
Those globes, or they
like
or
not
like they're like, this hallway isn't like, it doesn't. It just feels like a catacomb. We need to make it feel like the catacomb.
Bring in the globes.
Go around and grab every globe from every classroom and pile them in this corner. That's what it looks like they did. Ben, you looked at the photo, right? It looks like.
Oh yeah, and I had to walk through it on screen here, and there's like even that giant like big brown one, and then blue one stacked on top of it. That
too many globes.
It looks like that's coming back later in the movie, and they just never touch it.
I thought there was going to be a part where he's chasing them and they knock all the globes, and he like is like, like slipping on the globes.
And then he ends up in a shower that's flooded, and
there's globes floating around him, and he's like, dun, 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 like trying to get the globes out of his way.
Dum, 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 dum. But yeah, back over to Laurie. She's kissing on the counselor. So she reveals to him her previous last name because she's called like Kate Tate or whatever.
Yeah, her name's Kate Tate.
Carrie Tate. Yeah.
Carrie Tate. Carrie Tate.
Karen
Tate. Carrie
like
Tate
from the movie Carrie.
And she starts to tell him about the situation. My brother was killed by my sister, or my sister was killed by my brother when I was 17. 20 years later, she's 37. He was locked up and got out, then came after her, and she got away. He knows the story, though. He also says 20 years ago. So little title drop there.
I feel like you told that wrong, but it's okay. We don't need to dwell on it.
No, that's what happened. The sister faked her death. Because the reveal is that the sister faked her death. Oh, it's actually me. I faked my death. That was Laurie who faked her death. And I'm Laurie. That's how she ended up here, because she ran away and faked her death.
He didn't kill. He killed her sister when he was a little kid, and then years later, like 10 years later,
but she like co-opted that story.
Yeah, so I think you just told it slightly weird. It's fine. We all understand how it works. We don't need to. We don't need to fucking Sherlock Holmes this shit.
Don't Sherlock Holmes it, or else you'll catacombs it. Nope, that's not even a saying that anybody ever said before. I'm coining it now.
No, we call it the globe hole around here. That's where I keep all my globes.
The globe flood. She gets freaked out. Sorry, let me figure out what I was writing here. Okay, so she gets freaked out because of the situation. She's like, "Oh, my son is in danger," because she kind of puts together that he hasn't gone camping. They go up to the bedroom and find that all his camping gear is still there, which is such a funny. Okay, go ahead, Steve. Yeah, sorry.
The way she puts it together is like the most like movie thing ever, where he's like, "How old were you when all this happened?
Yes.
Happened?" And she's like, and like the mantelpiece, it like, and you're like, ah, and just the word 17. She's like, 17. Holy shit! And he's like,
I have to check to see if his camping gear is still there.
Yeah. No, first
Anyway.
she checks for the can. She's like, somebody didn't go to Utah, and then she goes to her bedroom and immediately just pulls out a fucking gun from underneath her pillow, like that's where I keep it every goddamn night.
Meanwhile, the
ahead,
counselor
Eli.
is like, "What did I say? Why are you freaking out now?"
What he says is, "This is crazy," and then she says, "I hope so." I'm like, that's a pretty badass.
Yeah, because she's
line
like,
right
"I
there.
hope this is crazy. I hope that I'm just being insane right now, because if
Yeah, I
I'm not
got
being insane,
I
Michael
got it.
Myers is murdering my children."
Yeah.
The
I'd rather
phones-
be insane than actually think that what's happening is real.
How did Michael Myers take the phones out of this house? Is this on campus? I guess it's implied
Yes.
that he's taken the phones down.
She's
for
the head
yeah,
mistress. She lives in the head
Right.
mistress's house.
right.
That's how these private schools work. It's like the presidency of the United States of America. You can invite all your South African billionaire friends to come live with you. You can invite your former news broadcasting friends to run the military. You can do whatever you want, basically, once you become the head mistress of a private school in the United States of America.
And then Ronnie shows up. He's still alive, and he jump scares them, and they all go back to the school. Now,
This is my next. That's a scream. That's just a scream. That is a literal scream shot. She opens the door with the gun, and his back is turned, and he turns around, and she points the gun, and they go, "Ah!" and they scream, and I'm like, that's literally the shot from Scream when Dewey at the door with the mask, and like it's the exact same fucking moment.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow,
Exact same.
this movie is just actually lifting things, and they're effective and they work, but like when you do it that blatantly, sometimes you're like, Jason, I've gotten down your throat or up your butt or wherever you want to fucking call it about
wherever you want to go, buddy.
about
We're
saying
in this together.
about like saying homage or ripoff, and like there's two or three ways you can say it, but like an homage and a ripoff are completely different things. But I mean, the guy wrote it, right? You said, Ben. So like, is it, or is it like, or are they? But then they also like bastardized his original play. So it's like, are they taking his original thing and then also pulling from things that they know are successful from his other works? Are they bastardizing his shit? Are they ripping off his own shit? I don't know. But it felt so formulaic to the point that I'm now predicting everything that's going to happen in the movie, and I'm not really having fun anymore. I'm like, oh God.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
And
I
yeah,
wasn't sure if I
if
was being weird or not. Okay, good.
No, I think you nailed it perfectly, because even if they did rip off a previous script, it's embarrassing. But if he put that in himself and they kept it, that's self-plagiarism. Mm-hmm. So at this point now, like we're getting to the climax of the movie and it's getting boring.
Yeah.
So you're losing your audience by doing the same old shit over and over again.
It is crazy because like
it's really
the first half of this movie is like super compelling and good. And then I think like as soon as this stuff starts happening is when I start to like, oh, I've seen this movie. I feel like I've seen this whole movie.
But also from my point of view, where I haven't seen Scream, it seems like there's been all this stuff, and this is the turning point that it turns into the Halloween movie now, because from here on out is when the kills start happening.
But it doesn't really turn into a Halloween movie. It turns into a Jason movie, is what it feels.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah,
stalked by numbers.
Yeah, so it just cuts over to Sarah, which is the brunette's name. Charlie gives her a scare, and they're doing this thing where they're using the dumbwaiter as an elevator, which I think is like they don't do enough with it. They do a cool horror movie thing with it eventually, but I'm on edge about the dumbwaiter, but this is also the
Can I
famous
ask you
scene.
what else did you want them to do with it?
I don't know. The dumbwaiter falls with
It does
somebody
do
on
that.
it.
It does
No,
do
with
that.
it falls on her leg, but not with somebody on the dumbwaiter. He cuts it with nobody on it.
But if it fell with her in it, then you wouldn't have got the leg, right?
True.
Yeah,
But
I think the leg
I'm
is
talking about
as
my
deep as it was.
tension.
Your tension, okay,
Okay.
yeah. But
Yeah.
also, again, the leg, scream again with the fucking the garage door.
Dog.
Like, it's
The garage door, the dog door.
Yeah.
So the main scene I've seen from this movie is the scene coming up, but I didn't see the resolution of the scene. And it's Charlie goes in to find a corkscrew or whatever, and they do this big like Final Destination setup of this garbage disposal, and he's just like digging in the garbage disposal and looking at the switch for it, being like, oh fuck, wow, it's been spooky, it's Halloween, and is my hand gonna get ground up? And Michael Myers like shows up in the background too. All I could, I thought he was gonna walk over and just go tink. That would be hilarious.
That's what you're supposed to think, though. The movie has succeeded, Jason. This is the thing.
Okay.
It's like that's what the movie wanted you to think, and that's the thing that is angering me at this point. One thing I love about this is that they shot from the perspective of the whole. I always like a good perspective shot from like the back of a trunk, the inside of somebody's mouth, and a sink shot. Like I love that shit. And he looks worried. He's like, I don't want to put my hand in there because I know that it's a garbage disposal. He even tests it just to be like, okay, that it works. I need to be careful. And then he puts his hand in, but I'm like, Michael Myers is coming in. There's no way in hell Michael Myers is gonna do that. It's not a Michael Myers style kill.
That's true.
If they do it, I'll be surprised. They didn't do it. Not surprising. He turns around.
I should have talked about that in my brief history, because this is like that was the only thing I knew about this movie was this scene, and I was sure that he was going to the fake out. I thought was going to be like he somehow like pushes his head into it or something, but that's even like a Jason kill or even a Freddy kill.
I swear it got annoying because I'm like the real fake out shouldn't have been the fake out. I feel like the fake out in this moment truly is just shove his whole arm in there and then pull him out as he's like and then kill him. That would have been the thing to do, but they like to build tension, and then you don't even see that kid die. Like, so whatever.
Yeah, so he gets
killed
off
blue ball. Blue ball.
He gets killed off screen, and it goes back to Sarah. The lights go out because Michael Myers has cut the lights out, which is a kind of a good resolution to her death reveal, but I'll get to that in a second. The line "No sex games until I've eaten" was funny to me. Then she finds his throat slit in the dumbwaiter. I thought the effect for the slit throat was like pretty good. I mean, it's an easy effect to do, but I thought it was
also
effective for the
he
scene.
didn't cut the lights. The lights just has like a weird sort of old building delay on it. Just like
okay,
turn it on,
yeah,
ding 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 ding, and then it turns on, and that worked into like when she's laced up in it later or whatever, right?
Yeah. But we get some good horror here because Michael Myers shows back up to her. He fucking stabs her in the leg, and then we get the crawling away from the menacing slasher moment, which I that's effective. I was on the edge of my seat for this bit, and she makes it away, and she's trying to get into the dumbwaiter, and as
no, Jason, again, you've made up a new scene in your mind. This is all wrong.
No, she takes the dumbwaiter and she's getting out.
She gets into the dumbwaiter. She gets into the dumbwaiter. As she's closing the door, he stabs her in the leg. She closes the dumbwaiter. The dumbwaiter goes up. Yes. She opens the dumbwaiter on the second floor. She has one fucked up leg because he stabbed her as she was getting in. As she's about to get out, her leg gets stuck underneath his legs, and she's trying to pull her leg out, and then he cuts the wire, and the dumbwaiter crushes her leg, and then that's when her leg becomes horribly mangled in a way that I'm like, that's gruesome. Like that is what I was expecting the garbage disposal hand to look like, kind of thing. And then he shows up and he finishes.
It also
her
has
off.
one of my favorite shots too. As the dumbwaiter's going up, it has that shot looking down the chute, and you just see Michael turn and look up, like he's trying to figure out what exactly this contraption is.
Yeah.
He's like, if I cut this cord, will something happen? And then he's just kind of like, I guess, because it does take him a while to be like, I don't know, maybe let's see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he like waits and watches as it lands too, which I did kind of like that as well. Get some good curiosity going on with Michael, but yeah, I don't know, man. As a whole, I think that like the dumbwaiter stuff was more effective, but again, it's lifting from Scream, and I will say like the mangled leg kind of made me be like, all right, you guys did it in a different way, in an interesting way, and you clearly spent time on that leg because it looks gross, like real gross. Like, it's nasty. Yeah. I was expecting it to be gone, like she would just be like, oh, like half a leg, but like no, she pulled it out. Is that the one where does he stab her like a bunch of times? Right?
Yeah, and then hangs her.
Yeah,
it's just like
from the light.
This is like another Scream thing where I'm like, this is like clearly a Scream shot where he's like with the butcher knife, just like ring, 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 like yeah.
And then the reveal of that body later. Sorry, Jason, if I'm getting ahead of you on this one, but
just to catch up to where. Just to catch up to where you're at, it just cuts back over to John and Sarah just kind of hanging out, and then when she's crawling away, Michael Myers puts his foot on her neck and repeatedly stabs her.
Yes,
and I made a note that was like the score and the sound effects here were really good, and
that's another reference to your favorite movie ever, Scream. I mean, Psycho.
Yes. Ben, what were you going to say? Because I want to know, because we might have caught up, but I want to know.
Well, they discover her body hanging up, right?
That's in a second, because this is literally the next scene where John and Sarah are like, we have to go find our friends. They find a blood trail, and the mutilated bodies are her. I don't even know how to describe this, because this might be one of the most horrific, in all these movies where the slasher for some reason takes the time out of his day to like present all of his kills so the final girl can like find them. And Halloween has a really good one in the first movie. That's my favorite part of the movie, where she's going through and she's finding all her fucking dead friends through the house. This is they only needed to do one. And she has a light down her fucking body that lights up the whole room and just shows horror. It was very effective, in my opinion.
Was it in? It wasn't in her, was it?
But
her chest cavities like lit up.
I think it was hanging on her chest. She was definitely hung.
I think it was hung by it. And it was just.
Like, okay.
That would have been Jason. Once again, creating something that would have been way cooler if it was like. If he had cut open the hole and like put it down her throat and it was just inside her butt, that would have been crazy. Have they not done that in something? They must have done that in something. Jason, write it down. Patent it. We got to fucking copyright that idea right now.
But Steve, like, to your credit, this is just another shot from Scream. It's the Casey Becker death.
Yes,
from the very beginning when they just
but
finding her hanging from the tree.
But also, to the credit of horror movies in general, that is also a shot that has been used in Jason and I believe, I can only think of Jason. I have more in my brain somewhere, but they didn't create the like like the musical cut, jump forward.
Yeah,
but yes, it is quite clear to me at this point they are just redoing Scream. When Jason was saying earlier, like they're doing the best of Halloween, I'm like, no, they're doing the best of Scream from a few years earlier and just trying to emulate another.
It sounds like Scream was such a hit, they brought Halloween back to just like capitalize on
Scream gave a breath of fresh air into the horror genre that had been dying for like almost a decade at this point. They're like, horror's not doing it anymore, and then Scream just like breathed new life into it. similar to when I was finally like a brave teenager and horror movies started to come out. It was like the Saw franchise did the same thing, like they're like reimagining horror. What would horror be like if a crazy guy made you have to kill somebody? And you're like, what, me? I would never kill somebody. And it's like, what about if a key was inside his eyeball that would have a thing to stop a detonator from going
The
off?
antidote to a horrible disease. That's also a detonator. Yeah. You want to play a game? How many horror movies are in this one scene?
I've planted several horror movies inside this horror movie. Which one will you solve to stop the poison in your veins from killing you?
Oh,
Live or
shit.
die.
So it's AIDS.
Yeah.
So you'll never escape. So Michael Myers is there. They run. This is where I made a note here that it's like, I just imagine slashers casing the joint before they.
I just had a thought of Jigsaw, but like he's strapped for cash or whatever, and he's also like an Uber Eats driver, so he's like,
Live or die, you decide. And then he's like, oh, how the fuck does this?
and he's like trying to buzz into a building, and he's like forgets to hang up the phone, and he's like,
What floor is it on? All right, it says that I'm supposed to leave it outside the door.
He's in his very
What
own
is,
Jake
what-
style.
I have to pee
his
really
own-
badly. I'll be right back.
All right. I just imagine these slasher horror icons get to where they're going to kill a bunch of kids, and they case the joint
Yeah.
to set up the best tableau to place all of their kills. This happened literally in the last movie too, where the last Friday the 13th we watched a couple weeks ago, where Jason at this point is just finding new creative ways to kill people with a different weapon every 3 minutes, because the algorithm says so.
Yep.
And when they finally do the scene where they find all the kills, it's literally like just a scream queen witnessing all of the deaths, like I think 6 in a row or something stupid. But it's like everything just becomes this weird self-referential mess. And I think from my point of view, Scream is something that I'm missing for this particular film. So when I go watch Scream for next Grimoire in October, I'm gonna retroactively, the same way I don't like the new Dune movies, because the Dune story, everything is pulled from Dune so much that ironically the Dune remakes feel like I've seen this all 100 times. I might go, man, this Scream movie seems like the ripoff of future movies, which obviously
I feel really, really scared that you're gonna watch Scream be like H20 did it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, after they did it after Scream.
After, I won't. I'm smart enough to not do that, but it is a problem. You guys made a great point about me watching Halloween for the first time at age 37, and not really getting it because I'm so fucking steeped in so much horror and even just film. But like I said, when movies do it poorly,
I guarantee you, this is why I kind of get like upset with you when you like mass dump your reviews on Letterboxd sometimes, because I'm like, Jason, just because you watched a movie 2 years ago doesn't mean you're going to feel the same way about it 2 years ago as you will today if you watch it today.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why I like, for me, I kind of like, I'm like, no, I won't put an old review. I only put a new review. And then if I watch the movie again, I'll put a new review, because then I might have a different insight, right? So I'm like, if you stand by your review of the first Halloween movie, I'll be surprised, especially after getting this far into the Grimoire. I think that your perception of it, your experience with the character and characters, and just the franchise in general, you'll probably have like a way better time. You'll probably enjoy it more.
And then also
Yeah, I
multiply
agree.
that by, if I was to sit down with the two of you and watch any Halloween film after watching all of them, I would have a completely different experience because we'd
What
just
about
be
Halloween
riffing the whole time.
Town?
Watch the Halloween Town franchise.
Yeah.
It's Disney, right?
Imagine
Or
we
was
added
Disney or
that to the
Nickelodeon?
Grimoire. I think there's like fucking 20 of those too.
There are.
Like
I've
the
seen
real
bits and pieces
H2O.
of them
Yeah.
too.
But no,
But I was
Steve
just
made a very good point with that, because when I watched 2013's Evil Dead, like soft reboot in theaters, I thought it was absolute garbage. And then when it came out on Blu-ray, I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. So I bought it and watched it and enjoyed every second of it. So it's crazy in how such a short period of time your opinion can change on a movie, because it really does depend on your mindset that you go into it with. And it's worth checking out. Something you really hate, check it out. You might like it. Something you really love, watch it again. You may not enjoy it nearly as much, but give it a chance.
I will reveal to you
experienced that on
guys
the
too.
podcast many times.
Yeah, I will reveal to you guys a little bit too that like I am caught up. I have dumped all of my reviews onto Letterboxd at this point, but my reviews are kind of performative. Like they're not supposed to be. They're just completely opinionated based on my opinion and my worldview. You know, like I'm experiencing these movies as I go because I'm a lapsed film fan. So it's meant to be kind of performative. And I do agree with what Steve is saying. If I went back and watched the 745 movies that I've now reviewed, every time I'll have a different review of it. I looked at my Jurassic Park review and I said, obviously it's good, 5 out of 5. And that's my review. But I think
that's
that
okay, especially for a movie
holds
like Jurassic Park. Yeah,
that holds closer to truth than when I write a fucking really long review about something.
But I also like when I look at my own, sometimes I'm like, I have like 5 out of like my 5 out of 5s are rare, but then you look at the ones that I do have and it's like Mystery Men. And then my first sentence is hear me out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, why did I give this a 4.5? Why not a 5 if I'm gonna fucking give it that high a rating? So I get it. I've been learning about even reviewing movies over the last 5 years. So Steve, I get it. If you're in my head every time.
I mean, I've stopped giving you shit because I'm like, he's gonna do what he's gonna do, and I should probably not try and interfere with your system. But yeah, I just kind of I'm like, well, just don't. You need to watch it again. If you're gonna post it like it's fresh, like people are gonna think that's your idea right now, and they might be like, "What the fuck's this opinion? Like this seems like an outdated opinion."
Yeah, but they are fresh right now. Like everything that I'm doing, I'm fully caught up. So like my heart is where it is, and I'm reviewing movies with more like wisdom based off of this podcast,
I'm also very behind on my Letterboxd reviewing. I should probably get back to it, but I also like most of mine are like I reserve it for like the shittiest shit movies you'll ever.
That's a thing that you do. Like have
you ever looked at mine? Yeah, I love watching trash. Like I'm like, all right, time to watch another trash movie, and like I sit there and I spoon feed myself garbage just to. I don't know. Feel better about my life, like, I gotta watch The Serpent and the White Knife or whatever, and it's like some bullshit, like horny movie from the 80s about people just like joining a cult in a cave. You're like,
on Tube, probably the only place you can find it is Tubi. You can't even like torrent it. It's just on Tubi.
It's somehow a Tubi original that was filmed in 1986.
Right, but I was just saying to Ben, I was just talking about how like all of these slashers seem to tableau their kills, and this movie isn't too different because this is what they have found. John and Sarah literally fist fight Michael Myers. John gets stabbed in the leg here, and
he does some maiming in this movie. He loves fucking people's legs up.
Yeah,
except for we talked about the guidance counselor getting like lift stabbed already.
No, we haven't. We're not there.
No.
We're at the point now where they're running from Michael Myers, and they do the really goofy, like they get trapped between a door and a fence, and she somehow drops the keys outside the fence. Yeah, he puts his hand through with a knife, and he's like, and the sound effect for it is literally
Scream.
like,
yeah, it's like,
is that also Scream?
Yeah, it's when Ghostface runs up to Sydney's room in her father's house, and she has the closet door that holds the bedroom door only slightly ajar, and he's got his arm through, and he's just slashing away, and she's hiding. It's the exact same thing.
It's weird that like to watch a Michael Myers movie and then be like, Ghostface is scarier than Michael Myers.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
Because like I was kind of hyped up to watch this one because I remembered it being so hyped up when I was a kid, and I'd only seen it once, so I'm like, it'll probably be better than I remember. And production wise, cinematography wise, musically, it is better. But I am not scared of this Michael Myers. There's just like so much wrong with him.
You can see his eyes like this.
Yeah,
the whole time.
He's got great eyes. That guy.
Yeah. But there was a good moment here. There was a good moment here where they were like knocking on the door to be like, let me in, because the counselor and Laurie are inside. And they get in, and Michael Myers like picks up keys and opens the gate, which also hilarious to me. But when he gets in, they slam the door in his face, and Laurie and Michael face to face for the first time, which was effective to me.
It is. It's good. It's really interesting, this shot, because like it's circular, right? It almost looks like a porthole on a ship or something, right? Like you look out of
definitely
in like a submarine or something, right? And like it's like looking out into like the depths of an ocean, like something you can't be a part of, or like like something alien to you. If you were looked through like a submarine window, anything that would swim up to the window would just be something that would like be monstrous or strange or inhuman to you. And like, I don't know, this is probably me just being like putting a little bit too much like paprika on the ham sandwich here. Be like, hey, you guys want to think about it that way?
I think like nailed it.
Like it looks cool, and it's effective, and it's off-putting and strange. And then like when it cuts to her grabbing the gun, every ounce of you wants to be like, shoot through that window. Like you want her to go like ding, like shoot through the little hole.
She goes to grab the gun, and he's already gone by the time she like looks back up too. Which
I know, but what I'm saying is like every ounce of you wants her to do that and shoot immediately, right? To the point that again you're getting blue balled. You're like, fucking blue balls over here. Someone die already.
What do we do? Try to live.
Yeah.
Which is a statement.
I think that the other line she said earlier was way cooler. I think that was kind of a dumb line.
Okay.
That was like a Sarah, like they're trying to make her Sarah Connor, like try to live.
Yeah.
Is like like that's like a Sarah Connor. But the other one where it's like, this is crazy, and she's like, I fucking hope so. Like that's cool. That's a Laurie Strode thing but when she's like, try to survive, I'm like, okay, Laurie, calm the fuck down. The last time we saw you got scared of a butcher knife and threw it away, and that's why you got fucked over. You're not that cool yet. But then you watch the new ones, and she's got like a trapped like Kevin McAllister house with like mannequins and shit. You're like, okay, now you're allowed to say try to survive. Yeah.
So the next scene was what Ben was going to bring up, where they're in a hallway, and somebody comes around the corner. They think it's Michael, and the counselor grabs the gun and just unloads a clip, and then there's a person dead on the ground, we think.
I did not rewind this because I was like, I don't want to like taint it in my head, because like when he came around the corner, was it
Michael Myers?
Yeah, it was Michael Myers, right? And then they cut back when he's being shot, and you're like, that's clearly LL Cool J now, right? Like they did it like a swap, right? Like it wasn't.
I think they did, yes.
It wasn't always LL Cool J, yeah. Because
then Michael Myers,
it made me question in my head. I'm like, did I see Michael Myers, but it was LL Cool J, or was it always like like in my own head? I was like, this is making me question, because LL Cool J is for those who haven't seen the movie, like shaved head, bald in this, and Michael Myers is crazy mad scientist, spiky hair. So like you would know the difference of the silhouette.
But Michael Myers does appear from around the corner, and the only way I can describe it is stab lifts the counselor with like his butcher knife, and it's brutal. He's like, we're
Well,
seeing
he's doing a
die.
double-handed stab lift. It's not a single-handed stab lift like you see in the Olympics. It's like a double-handed one where you see in the Special Olympics. So like he grabs him and he's doing a double-handed.
Yeah, not the Special Olympics one. Laurie sort of hides around. This is interesting because she kind of fakes him out. She has like the blood of Ronnie on her hand, and she puts it on a doorknob. And Michael Myers does the here's Johnny stab through the door, which I thought was awesome.
He'll just like punches it down,
destroys it.
Yeah, like it.
Yeah.
Remember when she's like, barricade yourself in here, and then he just plows through it like it's absolutely nothing. Also, way too much blood dripping from that handle. Am I right? Like,
yeah.
Definitely.
They definitely went up like just before they're like action, and the camera's coming down the hallway, and there's somebody like like dribbling blood all over it, like and like has to like run away with a fucking pitcher full of fake blood. Love that kind of dumb stuff in movies, though.
Speaking of, they run out to the car. We get the can't get the car started trope. They do eventually, just as he's about to like stab punch her. They drive off. Laurie tells them to get out of here. But she gets out of the car. She's like, I got to go back and have a showdown for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They leave the movie, and I thought that's where I'm going. Like, oh yeah, well they're just gonna like drive around the corner and come back in and help. Nope.
Well, in the script
movie
that Ben is talking about, the other copycat would have been following them. There would have been 2 Michael Myerses, right?
Okay.
Which is like, you can't really. That would have been too much Scream. We'd have been like, all right, this is now way more Scream than we. But also the cult, right? Maybe they all are Michael Myers at the end.
Oh man, what could have been? This movie would have been 2.5 hours long, though.
Imagine instead of a cult of Chucky, we had a cult of. He comes around the corner and there's like a whole fucking procession of them, like that.
Stab you, baby! Yeah. But Laurie tells him to get out of there. She's gonna go back in. She fucking picks up a full-on firefighter axe, and she's pretty badass. This is when she goes back in. She's looking around for Michael. Michael one arms it down from like a pipe. Was he just like straddling the pipe? Like what was he doing?
I have such a massive problem with that because there's no way, even if he was doing that,
it's pretty cool.
She would see it. She would have seen him no matter what.
I think it's not like he came down from the rafters. The ceiling is as high as like a regular ceiling. Where was he?
He was Spider-Maning on top of it. And then he came down and then went. So I think that this was their attempt to do like a cool alien style reveal.
Okay.
You know, like a predator watching and like, but again, the shot is cool. Like, I think that him, lowering himself down by one arm, it's, it shows how strong he is. It's like, it makes him imposing. It works, but at the same time, like, in the context of everything, it's like, what? What the fuck? It would have made more sense if he Jason Voorhees through a door, just like, But
I agree. I agree with that for sure. Because at one point he's struggling to get a knife out of a drawer.
Yeah.
At one point he's struggling to figure out how to put keys
lower
in
himself down.
and we know he knows how to use keys.
Yeah.
He knows how to drive a car.
True.
So yeah.
But like they kind of tussle a little bit. Now he's stalking her. We get the scene where she's under a table. I thought this was cool because like he's walking across the tables. She like tricks him. Then he's flipping tables out of the way to get to her, and she ends up stabbing him. So you're right. They have a bit of a sword fight with machetes. Did this already happen earlier in the movie with the thing that Ben just mentioned with the stab through the desk drawer? Did that happen earlier and I forgot to mention, or does that happen literally here? Because she also stabs him with a flagpole. It breaks off, and she's like, "Fuck the rest of this flagpole," which also was like, just finish the job. He pulls a flagpole out of his chest.
There are so many moments in this movie where you're like, just finish him off, and I guess the only one that matters is the last one, but that is the last 20 minutes of this movie is like, just finish him off. you're fucking winning. There's never like a moment where I mean, there are a couple where you feel like she might die, but like there's almost no moment where you're like, she's losing.
No,
You're like, she's winning. She's winning this fight the whole time.
Has a superpower, and she's the only one that can like think about what's happening when Michael Myers is attacking them. Everybody else is like, "Oh, I'm dead. I'm done."
Yeah.
But she's like, I'm figuring it out, because they fight up to like the top of a balcony sort of thing above where the tables were, and she fucking stabs him 6 times, and he falls, and then I guess he's dead. Or is he?
How many times did she stab him, Jason?
6.
6 times. I shot him 6 times.
That's actually a really good point, and I didn't count it, but it looked like 6. So that might be real, because this movie is very self-referential to Halloween, the franchise Halloween.
I would be surprised if it wasn't 6 times.
Yeah. I don't think that's it though. Even though there's like 10 minutes left in the movie, and I'm like, what are they going to do with the rest of this time? Credits? Nope. She checks on him, and right as she checks on him, she pulls the knife out, but what I thought she was going to do is push the knife in further, which I think would have finished the job. Ronnie grabs her, and he's like, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, which is like the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Dude,
are you sure about that?
Finish this monster off. Yeah. So yeah,
listen, they have their hippopotamus oath or whatever. The doctor's got it.
I just checked out that scene, and you are right. It was 6 times.
6
However,
times. Yeah.
However, there is one massive flaw that I missed every time I've seen this movie. It's that the last stab, she leaves the knife in his chest, and he falls, and it goes through like the table. He's on the floor, all like splayed out, and it cuts back to her, and she still has the knife in her hand.
Oh no!
And you know
we
what?
Love to see it here on Hey, Did You See This One?
Well,
this
is also a thing that if you've ever seen a Spielberg movie, you know that it doesn't matter. The continuity arrows don't matter if you don't notice them. If you don't notice a continuity arrow, it means you're watching a good moment in a movie or a good movie. So
you misspoke too, and said you accidentally said continuity arrow, and that's what I want to call them from now on, because
continuity arrow was my nickname in high school and also my superhero persona.
That's good.
What this says to me is that someone didn't do their job and got paid for it.
Yeah. Listen, we all don't do our job and get
Jason,
paid for
write
it.
down continuity arrow. That sounds like a pretty good superhero, if you ask me.
Good shirt.
Yeah, he's right up there with Twinkerbell. Tinkerbell and the continuity arrow are going to take care of crime in Gotham City.
In the Hey, Did You See This One cinematic universe,
fighting the Kool-Aid Man.
I'm not even going to try. So Ronnie's telling his wife that he's going to write a romantic thriller, and the bullet just grazed him. She sees Michael Myers get taken away, but she grabs an axe and fully pulls a gun off a cop's belt.
Yeah. And then she says, get the fuck back. I don't think she says, I think she only says fuck one time in this whole movie.
No,
there's
a few fucks.
All right.
There's a few fucks.
I'm just saying, I only remember the one is when they're in the street and she's like, what the fuck are you doing, John? Yeah. That's the only one I heard that
remember. I thought that was like, is this movie PG-13 and that's where they're using the fuck?
That's what I thought too, because she does use it heavily, hard, and the entire town is like, whoa, like everybody around them, like, oh my god, he's in trouble with his mom, and that is scary. Getting yelled at by your mom in public, ugh, gross.
Yeah. So she carjacks the van that he's loaded into and drives away. He stirs. But she keeps missing him stir in the back. I thought he was going to do a full Undertaker.
She's not missing. She knows. What do you think she's doing right now?
What do you mean?
What do you mean you think that she's missing him stirring? She knows he's stirring back there.
Well, no, he's stirring in the back, and she keeps looking into the rear view, and he keeps he stops. And then then she finally sees it, but I thought he was going to do I thought he was going to do a full sit-up Undertaker in a body bag, which I really just wanted to see. And then she starts going faster, And as he
Yeah.
gets out of the body bag, she slams on the brakes and he fucking fully goes through the front windshield. Amazing.
This is the only part of the
And,
movie that I was glad I predicted, because I'm like, do it, and she did exactly what, and I was like,
but did
thank
you also? This is also like, I feel like paying homage to the one where they do this exact thing, but with like a pickup truck, and then he goes over the top, and then the town shows up and unloads all of their clips into him. But instead, he's on the ground, and
he
I'm
falls
yelling,
in like a mine, an abandoned
Yeah.
mine or whatever. Yeah.
where he lives until the next year.
Yeah.
But I'm yelling at the screen in my office, just run him over. People in my office are like, what's happening?
I was saying the same thing. I think I was like doing stuff at the same time, and I looked up and I was like, now run his head over and over. Just keep running his head over until it splatters. Yeah.
But instead, she waits till he fully stands up. She drives. She's driving in this van, hits him, and they both go flying over this like hill. And I wrote so dumb. And he ends up like pinned to a tree.
They just wanted to have a nice little down the hill car stunt moment, which, I don't hate it. Like, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't make me mad. And I also liked their attempt at him getting crushed on the tree. Like, it's very clearly like a rear projection sort of green screen moment where it's like he's like as the car is there, and he's like like, okay, he's not being crushed, but he's doing his best.
And he's still alive, and we get that moment where he's like reaching out, and then she reaches out because she's like, oh, that's my brother. And then she's like, oh yeah, and then fucking picks up the axe and just decapitates him. And then there's nothing else in this movie. That's
where, in my opinion, Jason, that's where like as like she cuts the head off, the head should have hit the ground, and the eyes should have like blinked and then like closed, and then that's when like dun 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 should have came back in. Like that's where it should have came back in.
Or it should have been like, I survived my dawn, I can see you there. Like Linkin Park plays.
Or like, ooh, or the eyes are closed and then they open and it goes, ooh, yeah. So many options.
No, it's more early 2000s where you'd see that all the time.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Produced by Dick Wolf.
Remember Blade 3 where he refused to open his eyes and they had to CG his eyes opening? It's the craziest thing you'll ever see in your entire life.
Because he didn't feel like it.
No, because he didn't want Blade to come back, because he's like, no one can play Blade but me or whatever. And like he refused.
And as it turns out,
it's true. No one has played Blade but him yet.
Yeah.
Did either of you notice what happens when she screams his name, Michael?
What?
He looks at her, and then he just starts feeling around his head.
Oh yeah,
you see the look in the eyes of like, holy shit, I'm wearing a mask.
All right.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was, again, I said this earlier, I thought
him.
that was him checking on his hair plugs to make sure they didn't get burned off. He's like, are they still here?
So, but are you positing that he has a moment of realization? he snaps out of being Michael Myers at that point? Like,
the way that I read that is
he realizes his humanity.
Okay, Ben, you say what yours is first, because I have my own theory about what that is.
Well, it's explained at the beginning of the next movie.
Oh, well, I can't remember the beginning of the next movie, but
I'm not going to ruin it. It's interesting.
The thing is that I am absolutely 100% certain that they didn't know about the next movie when this was filmed. So I'm going to go with what I read in the moment and not what the next movie tells me. I'm assuming it's not him. Like, it's probably like it's somebody else in the, he switched out the body or whatever. That's how I figured they're going to explain it anyway. But what I felt was when she says Michael, he thinks that he's not wearing the mask, and that's how she's seeing it. She's like seeing his actual face, and he's like terrified that she's looking at his actual face. So he's grabbing his face to make sure that he is in fact still wearing the mask, because in his mind it's like, how could anybody recognize that it's me if I'm wearing the mask? And he's like, oh, I am wearing the mask. Thank God. And then that's
No,
when he's
see,
like,
that would be good writing, which isn't
well,
what we got.
I know, but then he reaches out to her, and that's when her heart kind of melts as well, because he realizes while she's yelling Michael that he's wearing the mask, and she still sees him as Michael even though he's wearing the mask. And so like he's like, but then you're also in your brain, you're like, he's gonna grab her and pull her in and like bear hug her to death or something, right? Like break her spine or some shit.
I thought there was going to be, you know, when the monster's hand comes up in the end of every horror movie. I thought he was going to pull her in for one more, and then she stabs him. But she just says, "Nope."
That's what I think is so good about this ending, is that like the moment when you expect him to grab her and pull her in and do something crazy like that, she fucking like cuts his head off. You're like, okay, good. There ain't no coming back from that, Mikey.
Yeah, decapitation is pretty much the end of any, even, you know, I don't think anybody else has been decapitated. Chucky got fully melted, but
Chucky's also a haunted doll. It's different.
Yeah.
I think that as soon as I saw the head cut, I was like, wait, there's another one after this.
Yeah, that's my exact reaction.
And then I was like, oh, it's just a different guy. Like he just like swapped the body, put the mask on. He's
is it Josh Hartnett? Okay, I need to immediately watch Resurrection.
No. I didn't say that, Jason. You just you're right. Jason's in his own writing room over here.
Yeah.
Mom, it's me, Josh.
Well, you both just made the movie better than it is. So
isolate all the parts where I came up with alternate things and make that movie. But you know, Michael Myers is dead forever. He's never coming back. So I think at this point,
Michael Richards is a janitor who worries about drains.
We're gonna get I'm still waiting for Michael Myers to die in this movie by electrocution from a flood due to the H2O of it all. You know, the H2O of it all. Listen,
it's like
what were we gonna say?
No, I just said new segment.
Oh, new segment. Yeah. Speaking of new segments, an old segment we've been doing for a long time here. I think we're going to go now into our final thoughts. But Ben, you have been here for the ward since we've done this. It is our final thoughts, but the Home Alone of it all is wrapped into this and your rating. So this is, of course,
if you had to pick one,
what do you think the Home
Alone is the Home Alone of it all? Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone?
I really gotta know.
When is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
So it's this week. I'll go first, just because it confuses all of our guests. So
He's scared we're gonna steal his Home Alone of it all. That's what it is.
No, I think we're all gonna have a very similar Home Alone of it all. You can use the same one if you want, but just to reiterate, the Home Alone of it all, of course, is the idea that in the movie Home Alone, the moment we're there to see is when Kevin McAllister slaps down the blueprint and basically creates a Jigsaw style host of horrors. I think that a lot of movies, I posit a lot of movies have that like thing that the movie works up towards, and both Home Alones have that in spades. Like you really just you like get through the stuff. There's lots of comedy that happens in Home Alone, but you're there to see what twisted nightmares Kevin McAllister comes up with. And I think every movie has something like that. And this movie definitely is no different, because the very idea of a slasher is you want to see the slasher slash. My Home Alone of it all is the most obvious, and it's literally when everything is subtracted from the movie, and it's that last 25 minutes of Michael Myers versus Laurie Strode. That's what I wrote down. That said, let me tell you about my final thought. While this one is short, I still think there was a little too much build up getting to the Laurie versus Michael Myers element. Maybe the cast was too small, but I feel like by the time you get to the 7th iteration of a slasher film, and especially one as iconic as Halloween, they should take the Friday the 13th algorithm approach. Of course, that means the Friday the 13th 7 approach, where every 3 minutes you get a kill. That's mostly nitpicky because I actually rather enjoyed this film. The prep school backdrop was interesting, and it was really interesting seeing modern actors I actually know versus ones that I fucking don't know any of the 80s bit part actors. So I liked the fact that all of the actors in this were people that I like recognize as part of my life. It's much more graphic and it's much more violent, and the deaths hit a lot harder because of it being the late 90s, and special effects have sort of crescendoed, if you will. And it's interesting that you brought up the fact that the mask was CGI at one point, because I do fully believe that a lot of the kills in this movie and a lot of the gore, they put that like CGI mesh over it. Like the cut across the throat at the very beginning of the movie was probably had some sort of CGI element to make it look that much more realistic and impactful.
There's also that like that point in the middle where like the mask like turns into a dog and he goes like ooh, and its heart comes out. And, and I'm like, what?
He sees an attractive lady, and
and he says smoking. And you're like, I don't understand what's happening anymore.
So I was concerned that through talking about this with you guys specifically, I was going to give this a higher rating than I previously wrote down. But I think that my exact rating of 3.5 out of 5 is the most accurate that I could have put down, because it's a great film, but it has so many glaring problems that I didn't even realize existed until you guys educated me on it. It left a lot to the imagination, but it's still a solid entry in the series and certainly better than a lot of the other entries. I give this movie impressively one-arming it down from a pipe on the ceiling only to get stabbed repeatedly, thrown from a height, smashed through a windshield at a high speed, hit by a van, and decapitated.
Oh, right. I forgot I was supposed to do that.
All right.
Good job. Good job. Good job.
So what do you think, Ben? Do you think based on all the information I've given you can give us your Home Alone of it all, your final thought, and your rating for this film?
Yeah, definitely. Home Alone of it all is, I thought we were all going to have the same one. And it's what this has been building up to for 20 years. And that is what Steve said about the face-to-face through like the porthole window. We finally get to see Laurie Strode and her brother look at each other in the eyes for the first time since, I guess, 81. So really this should be like H17. But ding, 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 ding. Yeah, even though those movies are
17, everyone's like, what?
3 years apart but take place on the same day.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that. We haven't seen Jamie Lee Curtis in a Halloween movie since Halloween 2. And even though the mask looked absolutely terrible, that was what the entire buildup was for me for this movie. I needed to see that scene. And yeah, it wasn't the best, but they gave me what I wanted. After that, it was all just gravy. I mean, the movie itself, like, I like it.
Give me what I want.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Give me what I want.
I didn't.
It's
touch
horrible.
Anything. I swear to God, I didn't touch anything.
It is absolutely a horrible movie that I really enjoy.
Wait, that was Jason. Oh my God. I thought
definitely.
The thing is, my mouse was on that prompt. So like, I was like, what the fuck happened? What did I do? I swear I didn't do nothing.
No, there are too many callbacks and not enough payoffs for them. Way too many references to other movies, intentional or unintentional.
Mm-hmm. To the point that it's confusing. To Jason like created his own like mechanical machinations of a movie that didn't exist. He thought Michael Richards was in this movie at one point when it was actually Jamie Lee Curtis's mom. He thought a flood was going to happen because of a teenage hair in a drain.
Well, think about how many scenarios we came up with that would have been better than what we got. If we can do it that easily, then they failed at making a good film.
I can't imagine being on a horror movie set and having a hallway full of globes and not using that fucking globe hallway for something. You know, like, what the fuck are you doing?
And
Rewrite it. We got a
where was
globe
the
hallway.
water?
Fucking let's go.
globe hallways, no water. But to say like they were, it was fan service through and through. But they dropped the ball so many times that at the end of the movie it says "in memory of Donald Pleasance" and they misspelled his name.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Like
gosh.
That's true.
They put un
it's just-
in front of it. He's like, what?
Donald Unpleasance. You know, it's really, it had so much potential. And Jason, you're saying it had so many stars in it. A lot of these people weren't stars at the time. We had
True.
Jamie Lee Curtis, Janet Leigh, who most people forgot about, and Adam Arkin and LL Cool J. Nobody knew who Josh Hartnett was. This is his feature debut. Nobody knew who Michelle Williams was, really, because like her claim to fame is Dawson's Creek, which came out at the end of the same year.
Yeah, apparently
Yeah.
the most famous person in this movie was fucking Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He got a whole and at the beginning, and he died with a skate
Yeah.
to the face.
Because it was just Third Rock for him at this point, I think.
I wonder if that was
And-
like he was like they had filmed it, and then like he skyrocketed and like teen idoled-dom. You know, like he was,
Could very well be.
you know, like the magazine started picking him up, and they're like, we got to give him a hand.
There was a significant moment in Third Rock from the Sun where he cut his hair. He had like long hair,
Yep.
and then he cut his hair, and he had short hair here. So I think you're right, Steve. I think this might have been like they filmed this, and then the show took off.
Well, because like
and he
in the
became
90s, like you
star.
would film a movie and the movie would come out 2 years later. Like it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't
Yeah.
within the same year like it is now. Or like certain movies would do that. But anyway, I was shocked to see the end because I was like spam messaging Jason being like, "Oh, Geordie Gordy's in this. Oh, I can't believe it. He's probably gonna die." And Jason's like, "Just a cameo." And I'm like, "Is it a cameo if you're locked in TV jail?" And we're just like talking
Yeah.
back and forth. And then I'm like, "He got the end? What the fuck? What is he, Sir Ben Kingsley over here? This guy
Poor
Anthony
JG, huh?
Hopkins? Yeah."
But the movie as a whole, like it gave everyone the immediate fix they wanted, but when you go back and rewatch it, it's not great.
No, it's
But
bad.
you have to commend it on what it did deliver. When you look at other horror movies that came out at the same time, most of them were trash.
Yeah.
So it's better than 4, 5, and 6. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So after all of that and multiple rewatches recently, I'm gonna have to give this 6 out of 10 CG masks.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's double edged.
Double-edged
Well, thank you, Ben.
rating.
Of course, you're welcome back to the Hey Did You See This One couch. I don't need to do the Johnny Carson thing with you, so I love you. How about that, Steve? Give me your final thoughts and your that and this and the other.
I like half of this movie. I think the beginning of this movie is kind of great. I think the opening of this movie, short of the stuff that I mentioned logically, where I'm like, this doesn't make sense, and that's kind of dumb. But you can forgive and forget those kind of things when you're watching a movie. Even as we just spoke about the end, where like she stabs him 6 times and he falls, and then she still has the knife in the hand, even though it's in his chest. I didn't notice, you didn't notice until you just looked it up. That's the staple of a good scene. That means that scene worked because you didn't notice such a glaringly obvious continuity error. But this movie is full of so many other glaringly obvious issues that I don't think I can ever say that I love it. And I didn't see it 3 times in theaters like you did, Ben, but like I have seen other movies in that way, that kind of dedication where something is so special to you that you have to go see it over and over, even if it's not necessarily to support the film or the filmmakers. It's because you're trying to absorb as much of it as you can. And I get that.
That's exactly it.
But like this movie, even after just like one rewatch, and I've watched it at least one time in my life, I'm like, I don't think I don't need to absorb much more. Like the stuff that I absorbed is the stuff that I think I'm gonna like from now on, and that is LL Cool J writing an erotic novel to his girlfriend over the phone, the fire axe, and I'm gonna try and burn Jamie Lee Curtis and the guidance counselor making out from my mind, because it's like, it's not hot, like, you know, there's nothing sexy about it. I'm not waiting to be like, I want to see some Jamie Lee Curtis tits on this fucking guy's face. Like, no, this is the guy with a speech impediment's face. It doesn't really check any of the boxes for like a standard horror movie in those kind of senses, but they're trying to do that, right? They're trying to give you the Jason stuff that like a Jason crowd is there for, but they're doing it in the wrong places and the wrong paces, and you don't really understand what you're watching for a lot of it. And I will go as far as to say that up into the moment that he arrives at the gate when she's driving the kids home, the movie is like absolutely interesting to me. And that's when it falls apart, I think, as well. Is it kind of devolves into a kind of like a lame version of both Halloween and a Voorhees. Like, and without the fun of like a Chucky or an Elm Street, where like you can have Chucky making quips and calling you a dildo or whatever, and Freddy Krueger being like, I'm gonna fuck you up again and again and again. Like, those things are fun, but Myers and Voorhees don't have those, so they have to think of fun ways to get around that. And I don't think this movie did it for me. My Home Alone of it all, I think, is absolutely the moment where it shows the cold open to the town, and then it has this like beautiful music, and you're like, oh, what is this? Everything about this town looks beautiful, and then you realize it's a school. It's like a private school, and then as it comes down and the October 31st fades into the screen, and the music goes from beautiful to like ding 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 ding. I'm like, oh, I know what I'm in for. So like mine is almost right at the beginning, where I was like, I'm locked in, I'm ready to go. And unfortunately, I couldn't maintain my grip all the way through. You know, like as much as I wanted to like it, I don't think I like it, and I don't have any kind of excuse, because this is sort of how I always speak about these movies, which is like they're not my favorite out of the franchises we do in the Grimoire. And I wanted to like this one more than I did, but I didn't hate it. And I think that there's a lot to like in the later half. It's just it's more like you're liking individual things rather than the whole.
Yeah.
So if I had to give this movie a rating, I'd give this movie I'd give this an H217 out of an H220, if you know what I'm talking about. Also a guy.
That's good. Very good.
Oh, fuck. Who am I? All right. Oh.
What a great show. We just have to get some plugs out of the way so we can talk about our own shit.
All
But
right, let me just plug this in right here, and
that's how he would have died if there was a room full of water.
That's what I wanted.
Globes and
globes.
The whole time. Globes and electricity is how
I was trying to think of like
light up globes.
I was trying to figure out how I could use globes in my rating, and I'm like, I'm never gonna.
I give it one globe out of 2 globes.
No, I was gonna be like, spin the globe, and everywhere you hit is water. Like, yeah, it landed on water. You know, when you're like trying to pick a destination, you keep picking water.
Oceania. Ben, what do you got cooking up these days, buddy?
Honestly, now that Bargain Bin's back, we've been trying to come up with some more interesting titles that we didn't normally cover. So we're doing some like shorter films, a little bit breezier things to get through, and it's been going really well for us. So you can look up me and Sandra at BS Bargain Bin on YouTube, bsbargainbin.com. Look us up on Twitter or X or any podcatcher, really. We're starting to get back to our weekly thing, and our next episode coming up is the found footage film Exists. So if you like movies directed by Eduardo Sanchez, who did the Blair Witch Project, and you like Bigfoot movies, check that one out. It'll be out next week.
Awesome.
I like both
Well,
of those things.
Well, thank you for coming on again, of course. Steve, I already used the cooking metaphor. So what do you have spinning above your...
What do you have broiling in your belly?
What plates do you have spinning on top of... I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
What's
so
up,
many,
buddy?
So many plates are spinning. As always, Darth Theorist and the Three-Eyed Theorist. Darth Theorist, tomorrow, I believe, will have my magnum opus of all of the ones that I've written. I did all the music, I did all the sound effects. I got real nitty-gritty with it. It's a second part to another one I did, but I think it's great. I think it's amazing. I know it's probably gonna get like 12,000 views and that's it, and I'll be like, nah. But 12,000's all right. Please make it to 12,000. That's all I ask. And watch the other ones I did. The other ones I did are really good too. Other than that, as always, I have a secret that I'm gonna reveal soon. I can't reveal.
What about Sunday, Steve?
Oh yeah, Sunday. I'm gonna be on Trivial Debates, and one of my most favorite IPs of all time is what we're debating. But I'm not debating this time. I think that they realized that I might actually get too heated that I might try and figure out people's addresses and come fight them if they disagree with me. So I've been dubbed the judge of the episode, and it's dealing with the television show from the 90s, the early 90s up to the early 2000s, Reboot. If you're familiar, it's an animated television show that I love, I think, almost as much, if not more than Star Wars. I know almost everything there is to know about Reboot. And I know a lot about Star Wars, but I don't think I know everything there is to know about Star Wars. But I know everything there is to know about Reboot. And I can't wait to judge those sorry sons of bitches. Because they better be ready. They better be ready.
That's an episode I'm gonna tune into, because I'm excited to see what you do with that.
I came up with some good questions. Jason helped me actually, but it was more like conceptualization. I was like, well, what do we do, right? What is music in the Reboot world, and how do you take that and make that into a question? But Jason helped me out. My friend Cass, friend of the show, has helped me out as well. I'm excited. I'm excited to judge it because I've only been a judge one other time, and I think I did a pretty good, fair judgment. But this is something that actually matters to me. So the other one I didn't care about. No, it was Avatar, The Last Airbender. So I like Avatar, but not nearly as much as I like Reboot.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true. Look out for that on the words are hard. The United Federation of Podcasts, which of course we represent here at Hey Did You See This One? I'd like to let everybody know, of course, that right here each and every week on YouTube and Twitch and Instagram and Facebook, you can find us at 8 p.m. every Thursday. It's an institution, if I'm being honest. I'd also like to let everybody know that I've been on various episodes of the Super Mater Brothers podcast known as Super Mater Brothers. It's a reality television show kind of thing, but we're doing Survivor right now because Survivor is out. I'm a featured guest on that show most weeks for the rest of the season. And also, I'm an announcer at Super Kick Wrestling here in Toronto. Now, we had a show last week, which you can find at the Super Kick YouTube channel. We have another show coming up April 25th. It's going to be dangerously close to my birthday. I might tell the whole audience that it is my birthday. But I would like everybody to know that we do have a merchandise shop where you can get such images as this. Steve drew all of these. I will preface by saying
I drew all of these with my own two hands.
You can.
I mean,
you
I
can
use one hand mostly, but
yeah, the other hand is for jacking it. No,
Yep.
Where did you say that? Yeah.
No,
okay.
you're right. You're right. I
Yeah.
don't use the same one for both things.
You can get the Grimoire. This is one of our flagship series that we do here on the show. Based off of that, there's Kill Aid, which you can get on a shirt. And as we mentioned earlier tonight, of course, there is Twinkerbell. Please go buy that.
Who's he gonna team up with again? I can't remember. What was his name?
He's gonna team up with continuity
Continuity Arrow. Yeah.
Continuity Arrow. We have the Zardos photo. I mean, Zardos hasn't been here all month because Freddy Krueger has taken over the mantle. Each and every week. It's
good
not
though
a
because
t-shirt.
Zardos has a lot of guns to barf up around the country of the United States of America right now.
This is not a shirt that you can get through us. You can probably get it from somewhere, but we have to teabag every single one of our guests.
Oh God.
Sorry, Ben. You can get the Howie Mandela Effect t-shirt, which exists, and this hasn't been released yet, but Corporal Tunnel, this is coming soon.
Wow.
I'm just waiting to release this until somebody buys one Twinkerbell shirt. So
I think someone did, and it was me.
It was you. And here's the thing: Twinkerbell is great. Tinkerbell is life. Everybody go buy Twinkerbell. I'd like to thank our guest Ben, as always. And I know, I know you hate this, but I have to ask you to do the thing.
No.
You gotta please just say it.
Can't do the thing.
Well, then we're gonna pivot.
It's the time before we leave for lesson number 3.
Absolutely. There's no sense in going off half-cocked.
Steve, you want to hit it this week?
Whoa, I missed something. What was that?
Oh, I was muted. I said, "Hey, did you see this one?"
Did you see this one? Well, that's this is the part of the show where somebody has to make a joke or we can never leave.
Why are you gay?
What do you mean?
What are you talking about?
Why are you gay?
No, I didn't say that.
What did you say?
I said, "Why are you gay?"